everybody. Hey now, what is this? NPR? Heck no. Hope you're all doing well. Happy terrific Tuesday. Hope you're doing well, Adam. You're seeing you're wearing your bright orange or red jacket.
Got my Halloween colors on. Look at this.
Nice. Look at that. Halloween's just around the corner. But first, let's talk. We're gonna talk about a couple of stories today. There's some crazy stuff. The other day on MSNBC, they referred to that Trump rally at Madison Garden. Pretty incendiary rhetoric. Pretty incendiary rhetoric. So we're gonna
They're not
watch.
on the Unity train anymore.
They are. Well, I don't think MSNBC was ever on the Unity train. Okay.
Right. Right.
So, and this will be good for your argument about the division that the media and MSNBC specifically is throwing at Trump. And then after that, there was I don't know if you saw, there was this kind of hilarious clip on CNN where someone made a comment towards Mehdi Hassan that
I did.
was.
Yeah. I think I sent that to you.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was quite offensive. Oh, you did
Right.
send it to me. Yes, that was quite offensive to some and led to him being kicked off the air.
Really? The
Yes.
guy who
Yes.
made the comment? Because
Yes.
he was also the same guy that got them on the Floyd effect. That nobody understood the Floyd effect, and they
Oh,
was like,
that's the
"What?
same guy.
That's the same guy."
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
wow.
So they
Maybe
were
that's why they wanted to go after him
they
like
were looking
extra.
for a reason to get rid of that
Right,
guy. They're
right.
like, this guy's too smart for us. He knows all. He actually follows the news. We got to get him
Hmm.
out of here.
I mean, he flew too close to the sun, I guess.
Oh, but
So,
I like the comment. I think he made some comment about. I hope your
well, we'll
pager
see.
doesn't go off.
We'll see. I mean, it was kind of funny. And actually, yeah, maybe because I forgot he was the Ferguson effect guy. Um,
Yes, yeah.
see if we can find that. Maybe we'll watch that clip first.
Ferguson effect, Floyd effect. I think there's plenty of evidence that he was correct in that exchange. So, but he
Well,
did make them
obviously,
all
yeah.
look like dipshits. He spawned a million videos on YouTube that I'm sure all of them went to. All of these, mainstream media elites, they know what's going on YouTube. Don't think they're not searching their name and they see a bunch of videos pop up. Oh my God, wrecked on CNN.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh
Yeah.
shit.
Yep. Okay, here, wait. I found the clip. So, yeah, maybe we'll watch that first, and then we can watch the incendiary clip
Well, I have the clip
afterward.
on. It's I mean, throw it in the watch together if you can.
Well, we'll watch it after. We're gonna watch the MSNBC thing first, but
Okay. Yeah, this is complete insanity here.
okay. So
I
let's
saw
check
this. When
this.
are they going to start running stories like is it moral not to assassinate the the future Adolf Hitler, right? Is that an immoral act?
I
Right?
mean, yeah, sort of, right?
That's a discussion they're going to start having on MSNBC, right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Moral or not to assassinate future Hitler?
Do you think? Okay, here's our question. If Donald Trump wins the election,
Right.
is that going to be an actual topic of conversation that will be talked about on MSNBC? Well, someone, not one of the hosts probably, but would they bring someone on to talk about that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean,
I would agree.
I'd hope they'd have some level of sanity, right?
Mm-hmm,
But I
mm-hmm.
mean, they're getting as close to that line as humanly possible, right?
Right,
This
right.
this whole story is kind of I don't know how you can make this argument and
Mm-hmm.
keep a straight face. These people have no credibility in
Right.
my eyes. I don't know. Maybe they have a shred of credibility left in your eyes, but
No, I mean MSNBC lost most of its credibility a long, long time ago.
yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
they're trying to divide the nation at this point.
right. Okay, let's see what's going on here.
Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden comes days after his own former chief of staff went on record to describe his former boss as a fascist. But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally.
Yeah.
What was the thought process? What was the thought process when they were writing this into the script for this episode? They're like, hey, this I don't like Donald Trump. I don't like Hitler. How can we associate him? Oh, I know. Donald Trump had a rally in the same location, 80 years, 90 years later, that someone had a pro-Hitler rally. Like, it's like, really? This is it? This is the insult? It was the same physical space that happened 60, 80 years ago?
The logic is not very sound. I'll admit that. They believe that Trump is going to be the next Adolf Hitler, though. They're terrified he's going to gain the presidency. And they live in this fantasy world where he's going to start rounding people up and killing them.
No, I mean, I understand all that, but just this line of attack is just so this is
it's
pathetically
horrible.
weak. It's just so pathetically lame. This is literally the Hitler drank water, you drank water, so you're the same attack, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Yes.
like, if you look into it too, it's like JFK, the very famous, Happy Birthday, Mr. President, Marilyn Monroe singing JFK, Happy Birthday.
Mhm.
That was at Madison Square Garden.
Oh,
At some
another
big Madison
Nazi,
Square Garden rally.
another Nazi rally.
Right. And Bill Clinton had a big rally at Madison Square Garden too. So it's just like preposterous that you're like, okay, well, just because you have a rally at Madison Square Garden, a very famous place, very famous place to hold events, somehow gets you associated with the Hitler stick is ridiculous.
But if you are a fascist, I mean, obviously they're going to make the association.
Sure, I guess, but it's just like, what's going on? What's going on there, right? And also, apparently, I didn't know this. There was this guy named Jerry Wartarski, who is supposedly a Holocaust survivor, who is at this quote Nazi rally.
Oh yeah, look, there was tons of people who were Jewish that were posting, "This is insane. This is crazy." Like, there's no greater supporter of Israel than Donald Trump.
I'm going to say this as a Jew. This is a side note. I'm going to say this as a Jew, so I can't be hit with the anti-Semitism stick. Okay. I could have swore that there's like a period of 4 or 5 years, like 4 or 5 years ago, where every year I'd hear a story about how the last Holocaust survivor died.
Oh no. And
do you remember
they keep
this?
finding another one.
Yeah, like, I just feel like maybe this is just like, maybe it's part of the Bear Scene universe. Maybe I'm just completely misremembering it. I could have swore like there was a period of time where I remember it's like, oh, the last Holocaust survivor, 94 years old dies. Like, just because it happened so long ago and just the age. And it's weird because I was like, wait a minute, didn't we have this? And I feel like every year it's like, there's like, what's going on?
One.
They keep finding them. They keep coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember any story like that. So
okay, maybe it's just me. And also, as a side note, imagine how awful it must have been to be JFK's wife when Marilyn Monroe goes on stage and is like signaling to the entire world that she's fucking your husband on his birthday. Like, come on, Marilyn. That's not very classy.
That's uncomfortable.
No, that is.
Wonder how Melania Trump feels in those Stormy Daniels trials.
Could you imagine? Oh my God. Could you imagine if some like porn lady or famous model was like singing happy birthday to Trump, like very seductively?
Oh yeah.
For the entire country to see.
Melania's not going to dig that.
Oh my God.
Rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms.
So apparently this was not first like an MSNBC thing. They took this from a Times article. So someone else, this Karen Matthews person, they were the first person presumably to make this this comparison. MSNBC is like, got it. We're running with it.
This is so desperate to put these quotes in this article.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were a bunch of Jewish people there. No Jewish person stormed the stage, and Trump supporters basically pummeled them to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
This is ridiculous. But that's a takeaway you're supposed to get from this. It like mushes up in your mind, and it makes you think, oh yeah, those Trump supporters were beating up Jewish people at the rally. That's a takeaway. These are the low information voters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't think so?
You're correct. No, I think you're completely
Yeah.
correct.
How is this not election interference? Remember when we talked about what upsets me about the news is supposed to like inform people, and really what they're doing is uninforming people?
Well, I agree with that. I don't know if you should call it election interference. Like partisan media being partisan, I wouldn't say is election interference. You could
Mm-hmm.
say it's, I mean, obviously it's going to have well, I don't know, obviously, because I feel like MSNBC and Fox are so, like, they're so split. Is there anyone that's like convinced by their own side? Like, isn't and just people that vote the way they vote already watching that source of media?
I'm not sure. I mean, I do think there are low information voters that just
Hmm.
vote off of a couple of things.
I think
And this is
maybe.
obviously compelling.
I'm not
Like,
sure
this
they
is
watch
why they go to the
MSNBC.
fear tactics, because the fear tactics are more resonant. They're more
No,
likely to be
obviously.
remembered. Yeah.
Right, right. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, I think to me, election interference should be something more like someone is preventing people from going to the polling places. Someone is like, there was that story of someone lit the ballot box on fire. Like, to me, something like that is election interference. MSNBC or Fox News or any of these organizations just being like super partisan, super biased. I just don't conceptualize that as election interference.
It's interesting that they want to target disinformation and deplatform it.
Mm-hmm.
The fuck is this?
Of course, of course, of course.
The fuck is this? If it's not disinformation.
I'm kind of skimming that Times article. The Times article is actually far more balanced because it just says like it's actually going through like all the various things that have happened there at the Madison Square Garden. It's not necessarily trying to make that direct Hitler comparison the way that the MSNBC news report is doing so. So I guess we can put the blame back on MSNBC
Was
directly for
there
this.
was there open anti-Semitism at the Trump rally in Madison
I
Square Garden?
I don't believe I've not heard of that. No.
Right. I don't know. I didn't see Kill Tony's entire set, so
Well, he
maybe he
did make
made
a
a joke.
joke. I thought it was a funny joke. He made a joke where he said that the Israeli and Palestinians should solve their differences with rock, paper, scissors.
Right.
And he says the problem is that the Palestinians will just constantly throw rocks.
Okay.
And then he said, but then it's not better for Israel because everyone knows that Jews have a problem throwing paper.
Okay.
I thought it was pretty funny. Adam doesn't think it's pretty funny. So get it? You get it? Paper, rock. You get it? Do you
Yeah.
understand the joke? Do you get the joke, Adam?
I do.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I gotta give
mildly amusing.
Okay, I gotta give Jon Stewart credit. He defended,
Supported, yeah.
Kill Tony, saying, this is he's a famous roast comedian. He tells offensive roast jokes, and they're funny jokes, and it's totally fine. And everyone should just, chill the fuck out about it. So I do give Jon Stewart credit for that. Comedian defending comedian.
Nice.
Which I think is what we said when we saw it. We said, it's funny. People shouldn't get so worked up about it. But obviously, from a strategic perspective, kind of stupid the Trump campaign to bring an incendiary comic on, a rally stage a week before the election. Probably not the best idea.
Yeah, it's definitely high risk. I'm not sure it's a bad idea, though. I mean, I'd have to see how the numbers play out, because you are giving people a taste of the censorious attitude on the left that I think a lot of people might be voting for Trump because they don't like that attitude. So, I mean, it's up close and personal now.
Well, I think you could do some kind of 10D chess move like that, maybe. I guess in terms of the strategy, something I didn't have any clue about, so people were writing about this, was that and this is why the articles are focused the way they are on the Puerto Rico comment about Puerto Rico being an island of trash, is that apparently there's a bunch of Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania that could have an effect on the election outcome. There's like something like 500,000 people that are Puerto Rican who live in Pennsylvania and can vote. And they might, if they open up the newspaper or they hear people saying like, oh, at a Trump rally, they called Puerto Rico trash. I mean, that could have that could have an effect on Pennsylvania, such a close state, an important state.
It definitely could. I don't know. I've seen some of the Kamala Harris campaign tweets on this, and I would worry that I'd be losing other places because it sounds a lot like Puerto Rico first. And it's like, okay, yes, they could have a large voting block in Pennsylvania, but there are other voters in like every state.
Sure.
You're sacrificing basically other voters who are like, oh wow, she's more interested in helping Puerto Rico than inflation where I live.
It depends how the response to it. And you're talking about, she put out some tweet that was something like, I've always supported Puerto Rico or something. And I agree that's kind of stupid. Like they should have just put out the tweet, which was just, Donald Trump. So at a Donald Trump rally, they said Puerto Rico is trash.
Yes.
Puerto
that's
Rico
a proper
is
response.
The Commonwealth of Puerto Rico is a beautiful place for beautiful Americans, and
Right.
we support them, blah, 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 right? Like it should just be like a very direct thing as opposed to whatever dumb statement that she put out.
Yeah.
Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that
happened at the
backdrop of
Trump
history,
rally?
Donald
Holy
Trump,
shit.
the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism. Joining me now, Ruth Ben-Ghiat, history professor at New York University and author of Strong Men, Mussolini to the Present. And Ann Applebaum, Pulitzer Prize-winning historian, staff writer at The Atlantic, and author of Autocracy, Inc., The Dictators Who Want to Run the World.
Now we have two bullshit artists from academia to mess up your mind.
Did you watch any of the Ben Shapiro versus Sam Harris conversation yet?
I did. I retweeted the clip
okay.
that's going around. Yeah.
Right.
But I didn't watch. Around? I think it comes out today, right? Did you watch the entire thing?
No, it did come out today. I only watched like the first 30, 40 minutes. I mean,
I only saw a clip.
Super interesting. But...
I only saw a promotional clip. So.
Mm-hmm. What was the clip?
I don't remember. Look, I've been arguing about the Electoral College for all mornings.
Oh, okay.
I'm not. I tweeted this out yesterday, I think. So, and I moved on.
Okay.
I moved on, but Sam Harris, I'm just Sam Harris, I'm not in favor of.
I just brought the part I listened to wasn't super interesting. But I just bring it up because this point about the fascist kind of comes up, and Sam Harris says that like fascist historians or scholars make the comparison, and like I can kind of understand the argument. This is what my understanding of the argument is, that when they talk about fascist, they mean specifically Mussolini. I don't know. I guess they mean kind of like this amalgamation of Mussolini and Hitler. Was that there was this claim that Mussolini wasn't really didn't really have a specific ideology, which just sort of had a vague sense of populism that he was using to gain power, and had sort of this cult following. And I'm like, okay, I can kind of see, like, you can see that shape in Trump, but obviously I don't think anyone realistically sees, or should realistically see a comparison where like Trump is going to be able to seize the army or turn the country into some sort of authoritarian dictatorship the way Mussolini did, or they're going to have like Trump MAGA supporters roaming the streets in black shirts, like beating up opposition, or doing any of these things associated with like fascism and, Italy.
Yeah, he made the Trump as a fascist comparison. My tweet actually did pretty good, 471 likes. I said, you are never going to get through to your progressive friends. They are never going to see progressives calling conservatives fascist as a divisive provocation. They just believe this is true. The only way to contain this cancer is to keep them out of power. So I do think this is like a dangerous delusion. But I mean, it's a weird situation because obviously we've got problems of delusion with Donald Trump as well, right?
Right.
Plenty of problems with delusion. But I just think the safer bet is to keep these people that want to call every single conservative a fascist out of power. I think they're the more dangerous faction.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait to have this conversation with both of you. And Ruth, thank you both very much for being here. Ruth, since you are not at the table, let me start with you and just talk to us about.
Look at that. Dr. Phil, famous fascist. Fucking fascist right there. Dr. Phil, the guy that was made famous by Oprah Winfrey.
Mm-hmm.
Fascist. Future Hitler supporter. Look, do you disagree that these people are dangerous, that this kind of delusion is dangerous?
All I'm saying is Hitler was a misunderstood man, okay? That's all I'm saying. He was misunderstood, right? His mom was very mean to him, okay?
With Jonathan Capehart.
He didn't get into the art school, and, it affected him. It affected him negatively. Now, to be clear, I don't know why my Dr. Phil becomes Obama, honestly. But I just realized they have kind of a similar speaking cadence. It's interesting.
Jonathan Capehart. Ugh. Whatever.
About the parallels that we're seeing between 1939, that rally at Madison Square Garden, and the rally we're seeing right now at Madison Square Garden, and the rhetoric that's already coming out of this rally.
Now, look, here's the problem, okay? They got like the Biden pink red light, like blood light going on in the audience in the background. That doesn't look good. And if you squint, okay, you see they've got like the pink. Actually, it's kind of funny. They have almost the bisexual lighting. They got the pink and purple lighting. And I feel like if you were to like really squint, you'd see it's really making a swastika. Like if you were to have like a direct overview, it'd be like a swastika shape, but with the lights. That's how you know.
Why do you think those lights are in red and blue stripes? Got any ideas about that?
Was it red and blue? It looks more like pink and purple to me.
Why the lighting is red, white, and blue? Why would the lighting possibly be red, white, and blue?
Well, obviously,
at a Republican
I'll tell you why. I can tell you why. Okay, the red represents the blood in the soil.
Okay.
And the blue represents the sky. So it's like the blood, the soil, and the sky, right? It's actually expanding fascism to space.
I actually think it has to do with the stars and stripes.
It does not look red and blue to me. It looks pink and purple. I mean, you're probably right that it was supposed to be red and blue because that would make sense, but it looks pink and purple from this angle.
Yeah, that's what they did. They said, hey, can we get lighting in this place that's pink and purple? That's really what we want to do at our rally.
Yeah, listen, that's what they did. I don't know what to tell you. That's what they did. Chat, is that red or blue or pink and purple? All right.
First of all, this is an MSNBC feed, so they messed with the colors. Okay.
Oh, I see.
They definitely messed with the colors.
They are you saying this is like Sam Cedar messing with Tim Pool's audio?
They're like, can we beef up that red in the background really to make it look like Hitler and get rid of this blue? We just want red, black, and white. That's what we want.
Oh, wait a minute.
It's got to look like the Nazi flag.
You could be, listen, if it was red and blue and they put like a redder filter over it, they make it become like the
purple,
pink and purple. Yeah,
exactly.
Maybe.
These people.
This
is evil. This is just, MSNBC is evil. They're totally
okay.
evil.
Wait, hold on. Now I'm curious.
I am going to have a hard time when Donald Trump goes after MSNBC and starts throwing these journalists in jail. I'm going to have a hard time. I'm going to have a hard time speaking out against it. I will.
No,
I will.
No,
I don't think anyone.
Stop.
I don't think people should be censored. But
stop. No.
When Jonathan Capehart ends up in the slammer.
No. Listen, it doesn't matter. You can't.
This is wrong. I'm going to say, this is wrong.
You can't throw journalists in jail. How dare you?
This is terrible. This is terrible for our country. That's what I'm going to say. And then I'm going to laugh. I'm going to snicker. I got Jonathan Capehart in the clink. No.
Free speech. Okay, free speech.
He'd be thrown in jail for like anti-Americanism or something like that, right? This is definitely anti-Americanism. So
yeah, but that's not a crime. You can be.
It's not a crime. No, it's not. You can be anti-American. Yeah, I understand that. But it is anti-Americanism.
Trump is still pushing the wanting to put people in jail for burning the flag. Still?
I did,
He's still
yeah.
pushing that, yeah. Can't get off
I don't
of it.
like that one, but I mean,
No.
I think like you're on stronger, firmer ground if you're talking about incarcerating people for lying to the American people. I think then you're on firmer soil.
Well, I think if you're going to go after MSNBC for this, I mean, there's no way you can't also go after Fox News for the plethora of shit that they say every day.
Sure.
So that's the problem. I mean, you can't.
I'm down.
You gotta let them, as long as when you say lie, like obviously you can't lie. You can't just say things that are just completely untrue. But this is just like a dishonest framing of things. It's not like a lie. He's not saying like those things happened at the Trump rally. That's how they get away with it.
Didn't Fox News have to pay some huge defamation case?
They did.
So, yeah.
They did, yeah.
That's good. That's cool. I'm fine with that. Don't let them lie. It's sick.
Yeah, of course, this is not a casual choice to have it there. And although Donald Trump objects strenuously to people comparing him to Hitler, he is the one who has gone out of his way to use Nazi rhetoric, talking about polluting our blood, calling people vermin, even releasing a campaign ad that says he's going to create a unified Reich in America. And of course, as General Kelly said, complaining that, generals should be obeying him. Like,
what was the unified Reich comment? Wait,
yeah,
I was
that
gonna look that up and then I forgot.
suspicious. I sent you, someone posted like a plethora of times that Donald Trump has disowned the KKK or disavowed the KKK. It's pretty
yeah,
comical.
I've heard him say that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So none of those obviously are in this report. I mean, that would be balanced journalism, right? You'd say, look, he's disavowed the KKK 750 times, but we don't believe him.
The Unified Reich thing was a video posted Donald Trump's account on a social media network, included references to Unified Reich among hypothetical news headlines if he wins the election in November. Oh, I think I remember the story. This was like, Donald Trump like retweeted some fan video. Remember this? That was like,
oh yeah,
promoting him, and
he didn't
like
realize
because
it was
Donald
in
Trump's a fucking idiot, and I guess didn't watch the video closely before he reposted it. There was like they used some kind of like what's it called? Like a preset animation that had a bunch of headlines from like World War II, and they didn't like change all the headlines. So one of them was like Unified Reich.
Right. So
Yeah.
they're basically lying. Like this wasn't some sort of campaign promise of his. He didn't go out on stage and say, I'm going to do this. This was some background image in some video that he shared on social media because he was on the toilet and wasn't really thinking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those
So
dishonest half-truths.
Yeah. You think that's fair? That's not fair.
Obviously, that's not fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the he did say the poisoning the blood of our country thing. That is true.
Right.
He said I think the real number is 15 to 16 million people into our country. When they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country, which obviously was a kind of retarded line.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with Trump, is he keeps opening himself up to these comparisons. And he says like stupid shit like that.
Because he's literally given up. Like once you denounce the KKK 750 times and it doesn't sink in, you're like, fuck it. You really are. Look, that is a danger here, because I do think there's some chance that Donald Trump is going to throw people like Jonathan Capehart in jail.
Right.
I do think there's some chance of that. And I do think there are plenty of people on the right that are going to cheer and go, yeah, sure, fucking Jonathan Capehart, he can rot in jail for 20 years.
It's, because I was re-listening to we've both been kind of re-listening to the McMasterson book because we were talking about it. And McMaster has kind of this kind of interesting point about Trump, where he's talking about how Trump will listen to a bunch of people that are like bad actors who are kind of hyper fixated on throwing red meat to his base. And this is one of actually the criticisms McMasterson levies towards Trump continually throughout the book, is that he says Trump is too concerned with placating his base in a way that actually undermines his own policy goals. And one of the examples that he brings of this is the making
Isolationist
Mexico
stuff. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but with the making Mexico pay for the wall. And he was talking about how when McMaster's and other people were working with the Mexican government, that the Mexican government was actually pretty amenable to working with the Trump administration to try to stop, the massive caravans and some other illegal immigration into the country and working with America. But they're like, listen, we're totally willing to work with you on this all stuff, but you got to tell Trump to stop saying that Mexico is going to pay for the wall, because then it makes the Mexican president, he gets all these questions in the Mexican media about this, and then he looks like a fucking cuck because, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to pay for America's wall and all this other stuff. And then so then they go and they tell Trump this. They're like, hey, Mexico's willing to work with you to do these things, but they're like, can you just tone down the rhetoric? And then Trump's like, sure, I'll do that. And then Steve Bannon, whispers in his ear, like, well, you gotta throw out red meat to your most, loyal supporters. They want to hear you say that Mexico will pay for the wall. And then Trump goes, okay, sure. And then Trump goes out there and he makes the comment. And it's like, the cycle just kind of repeats again, where it's like, okay, now Mexico's pissed off and they don't really want to work with you to help you stem the tide of immigration. And I feel like this poisoning the blood comment's probably something similar. You got Stephen Miller or some of these other people who are like feeding Trump very specifically. And McMasterson talks about this. There were people around Trump that would feed him these very specific lines. And then all of Trump's advisors would get into these fights about whether to include these lines in the speeches or not. And it'd be like this race. It'd be like this fucking race to the final minute right before Trump gives the speech, where everyone's arguing to try to get something removed or get something put in. And half the people are like, no, take it out. It's too fucking crazy. And other people are like, no, keep it in. That's what they want. And this poisoning of the blood. I mean, this definitely sounds like a Stephen Miller line that he kind of shoved in there. And I'm sure there was a lot of fighting about.
Radical Islamic terrorism is the one that they had the most controversy over.
Yeah, McMaster talked about he wanted it to be radical Islamicists, right? That was the phrase.
That was his switch up.
Yeah, because he said right. He said that Islamist was like more. I don't really understand the distinction, so I don't really get McMasterson's complaint. I guess it's like when you say someone on the left or a leftist. Like if you understand the distinction, it means something. If you don't, maybe it's all just doesn't matter. But Islamicist meant something very specific about Islamic extremist, and then but Bannon and Miller wanted to just be Islamic terrorists because they wanted to have more of a broad attack on just the Islamic religion.
All right.
Anyway, I guess my point is using sometimes he listens to really stupid people, really probably racist people, and putting those lines poisoning the blood of our country. And I don't even think he really gains anything. I don't think there's anyone who says I wasn't going to vote for Trump till he said poisoning the blood of our country. It only harms him. It only hurts him when he says shit like that.
The Führer. So this is not at all casual. I want to make a comment about what Von Hilliard was talking about. Trump has been using his rallies since 2015 to radicalize people, to incite violence, to kind of loosen people's inhibitions against violence. And all of the racist stereotypes against Latinos and blacks and misogynist stereotypes and all of the vulgarity and the crudeness is designed to help people lose their inhibitions and their taboos against inciting, against committing violence if the leader asks them to.
And,
okay, lady.
Wow. Okay.
That's why he's increasing his vote share with Latinos and blacks.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think because I can understand the argument, even whether people agree with it or disagree with it. I can understand sort of when people throw the racist argument. I'm trying to think of the violence argument. What is that even in reference to specifically? Where Trump has given a bunch. I mean, I guess you could say maybe we need to we need to throw out the Constitution to have the election. Or no, what was the line of something like, oh, there's so much election interference, we need to redo the election and fuck the Constitution.
They always point to one line where he said, beat that guy up and I'll pay for your legal expenses or something like that, which was obviously a joke. So
right.
Doubtful he was serious.
The problem, I guess, is for all the all this, you can point at Trump for using dangerous rhetoric, which I agree he does use bad
Oh,
rhetoric
this isn't
very
dangerous
often,
rhetoric
right?
at all.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say is like, then MSNBC is just as culpable as Trump for basically creating this narrative that, you know, all Trump supporters are Nazis. They're all, you know, basically ready to be Nazified, not only just ideologically, but ready to be, you know, violent black shirts going around the country beating people up. And it's definitely creating this like insane attitude in a lot of people on the left who just watch MSNBC and they think this stuff is all true, to just walk around seeing all the Trump signs, and in their mind they convert the Trump sign into like a swastika, and it creates like this insane level of anxiety and stress and division in this country, and then, you know, people go off and become unhinged because of it.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen if Trump wins, because anyone who watches this and believes it is going to think our country is turning into Nazi Germany.
Right.
Like,
And then the wokeness increases, as you
Is
said
that-
the other day.
is that true?
No.
No, it's not. It's a delusion. So I don't. Yeah, and I don't get this argument that, okay, so we give them power because they're going to be unhinged. They believe in a delusion. I mean, that delusion, those people are in power now, so they have the power to enact their delusion.
Mm-hmm. Not good.
Yeah.
And you write exactly this point in your latest piece in The Atlantic. Why does Trump sound like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini? And you walk us through what Mussolini used to say, what Stalin used to say, what Hitler used to say, and then you bring up things that Donald Trump has said, including they're poisoning the blood of our country, they're destroying the blood of our country, bad genes, they're not humans, they're animals, cold-blooded killers, the enemy from within, sick, radical left lunatics. And you say he knows exactly what he's doing when he does this.
So
I got news for you guys. Criminals, murderers, rapists are fucking animals, and we should call them that. It's bullshit. This is total lies. This is total
Right.
lies. He's not calling ethnicities animals. He's calling fucking murderers and thieves animals.
Well,
These liars.
Do you think that there's a level of strategic ambiguity when Trump makes these comments?
Oh my God. Okay. If
Do
you
you?
want to say that, sure. I think he
You
means
don't think there is
criminals
any?
and he could come right out and say, I'm not talking about the black voters. I'm not talking about the Latino voters. I'm talking about the criminals. I'm talking about the rapists. I'm talking about the murderers, the drug traffickers. And they would still say, oh no, this is strategically ambiguous. How can you say it's strategic ambiguity when there's a video of him denouncing white supremacists and the KKK for like 45 minutes? How can you say it's strategic ambiguity?
I'm making a very different argument to you, or I'm asking you a question that has nothing to do with what they said specifically. Because I agree. Because
I'm sure
I
that we
agree
can
with
find
you.
clips that it's not ambiguous. So
I
that's my argument.
I agree with you
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't matter what Donald Trump says. MSNBC is going to frame it in an incredibly incendiary way intentionally. They're
Yeah.
going to do that no matter what, right? That's
I
not
don't
my
think
question.
Donald Trump is being ambiguous about this. I'm sure we can find clips of Donald Trump saying exactly what I just said, that I'm not talking about the voters. I'm not talking about black people or Latinos.
No, but
I'm talking
when
about criminals. I'm certain of it.
Well,
So
hold on.
that blows the whole strategic ambiguity
No, it
argument out of the
doesn't.
water.
Wait. When Trump continually says that, whenever he brings up immigration and he says, like, you know, the first thing he ever said, they're sending their rapists, their drug dealers. Some are fine people, right? The implication is, well, the majority are the criminals. Some of them are not criminals, right? That's what that phrase means.
He assumes some are good
And
people.
so it's
I mean,
even
they
worse
might
because he's
not
like,
be.
I'm assuming maybe none of them are fine people, right?
So much ink has been spilled over one fucking line.
Well, wait a minute. That's not if that was the one line, sure. But when he continually says things like that, when he continually says, you know, they're poisoning the blood of our people. All these people have bad genes. You know, they're sending murderers.
I don't know the
murderers. They're emptying their prison and sending murderers. Like, it's it's very clear to me what's going on here is that he's throwing out a very incendiary, broad claim right in the beginning to get, the base riled up, to use fear, as you're talking about. He's using fear to get people to go out and vote for him. And then he'll provide a small amount of cover for himself after the fact, where he says, oh, some are fine people, or whatever comment he makes, in order to cause this sort of this fight where you say, whoa, Donald Trump seemed like he said something really racist. And then you say, well, he didn't really know. He clarified later. And it's like, well, that's the strategic ambiguity.
I don't buy it.
You don't buy it.
I don't think I think the mainstream media is completely lying. I think framing it as Donald Trump being ambiguous is just giving massive amounts of charity to the mainstream media that is unearned and undeserved.
Well, wait a minute. I'm not framing it. I don't know why. I'm not framing it have anything to do with giving charity to the mainstream media.
You are. You're blaming Donald Trump for the ambiguity that the media is creating. How are you not giving them charity?
I'm not. Wait a minute. My question in talking about this has nothing to do with the mainstream media's coverage of Trump. I'm just saying he's making these comments in a vacuum. We just say Donald Trump is making these comments.
Yes, and he's clarifying them, and they're ignoring the clarifications.
So it's just like, is he just
that
stupid?
Gets rid of
the
idea.
Is he just an idiot when he makes these comments that he knows people are going to interpret in these ways?
No, he does. He literally does not care. He does not care.
He doesn't care that people are going to interpret his comments.
No, he doesn't.
Racist.
He doesn't. Yeah, because he realizes there's absolutely nothing he can do, because once you have clarified your statements 1,000 times and those clarifications never make it into the mainstream media, what is the point?
Okay, let me ask you a question. If I say, hypothetically, or let's not say me, because this will get clipped out of context. If somebody says that they think Black people are inferior, or let's use white people, because this is sort of the thing that goes on with CRT. They say white people are evil. And you go, what the fuck? What do you mean whiteness is evil? Let's say whiteness. Whiteness is evil. Whiteness is evil. Whiteness is evil. And then I go, well, wait a minute. That's like hyper mega ultra racist. They say, whoa. When I say whiteness, I'm not talking about white people. I'm talking about the systems of oppression and blah, 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 blah. Right? They'll clarify it every time that they're not really talking about white people. But you and I look at this and we say, this is very obviously some kind of like dog whistle going on here. There's very obvious some kind of shenanigans going on here, right? So I don't think it's so simple as to say, well, Donald Trump can throw out every incendiary rhetoric he wants about immigrants or something, and then if he gives some kind of clarification after the fact, it's like, well, then why does he keep saying the same comments? Why does he keep doing the same thing over and over again?
Why does he keep saying that criminals are invading our country? Because it's effective.
Yes. Okay. So it's just entirely a cynical thing. It has nothing to do.
Sitch,
wait, why is it effective?
Sitch, are you in favor of criminals invading our country?
Of course I am.
Okay, well, good.
Right. No, but you understand it's this effective thing because it's a massive amount of fear mongering, right? That's the point of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so
it is. Look, if like people are motivated by fear, if you believe criminals are invading our country, yes, you are going to be afraid. Yes, and you are going to vote.
Okay, so but how's that any different?
Making the argument that you're making is when he says criminals, he just really means any immigrant. That's
not the argument I'm making. That's not the argument I'm making.
Then what are we even talking about?
The argument I'm making is that is similar to the argument you're making, that he says criminals are invading our country because he knows it's fear mongering. He knows he'll get people to run out and vote for him. That's the intention, right?
But that's not racist.
Well, wait, hold on. Unless Donald Trump is the dumbest person alive, which I don't think he's super smart, but I don't think he's the dumbest person alive. He understands, and everyone understands, that if you say a group of people is primarily composed of criminals, and
he's not saying that. You were saying that. The mainstream media is saying that.
Stop. If you say criminals are invading our country, the average human interprets that as the group of people that are coming to our country, the majority of them are criminals, right? You agree with that. Or do you agree with that?
He is making the argument that the majority of people coming to our country are criminals.
Okay. So if that's the argument, and the majority of people coming to the country are non-white or are Hispanic in origin or something, then that's going to very easily bleed over in the minds of the average person as cultivating the negative stereotype that these non-white people coming to the country are majority criminals.
Okay.
Okay, so that is a racist thing to do, obviously.
It's not saying that all immigrants are criminals, though.
I understand that, but he's definitely cultivating this environment intentionally for fear that's going to create a bunch of negative stereotypes for people.
Right. And if he tailors his language to avoid these negative stereotypes, is the mainstream media going to go, oh, okay, we'll help you here. We'll do away with those. We'll help you avoid those racist stereotypes.
I think if Donald Trump spoke with a level of care that most politicians speak, where he could be tough on immigration without saying some crazy shit, I think you would still have MSNBC attack him, but I don't think you'd have the more, even though they're left leaning, I don't think you'd have the other more moderate, not moderate, but the more at least putting up the idea that there's some kind of objectivity. I don't think they'd be able to attack him. They'd be attacking him. And when MSNBC would be doing these Nazi comparisons, most people, even in the mainstream left-wing media, would be like, okay, that's not fair. This is ridiculous.
Couple of points to make about it. One is this isn't language that's been part of mainstream American politics before. I actually, when I was writing that article, I went back and looked at a few other eras in the last century to see if I could find anybody talking about vermin or poisoning the blood or comparing political enemies to insects. And I couldn't find it. I mean, even George Wallace's horrific racist speech that he made in 1963, where he's segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever, he doesn't use that kind of language. This is language that is deliberately being imported and used knowingly by Trump and by others around him, including at this rally. It's also interesting that normally at this point in a campaign, a candidate would be going to the center. I mean, he would be looking for, swing voters, for, people in the middle, people who are trying to make up their minds. But it looks to me, and this echoes a little bit what Ruth just said, that what Trump is trying to do is radicalize people who don't usually vote to reach some kind of, latent, angry, maybe racist, maybe violent segment of society that doesn't usually turn out for elections. And that would just be my guess as to what he's doing. Because this, and particularly this rally,
I think this is way too overthinking what's going on here. I think you just have I think Miller or someone is just feeding Trump a bunch of lines that he says, this is going to play well with your base. And then Trump goes out and just says them. I don't think there's some kind of like 10D chess move we got to radicalize that contingency of all those racists sitting around that don't vote. Like, it's hard for me to believe that that's some sort of worthwhile population in America to appeal to.
She is guilty of everything she's accusing Trump of. Right in this
Yes.
very segment, the irony is fucking palpable here.
Right.
The difference is she is supposed to be disseminating truth to the public, and Trump is supposed to be advocating for his victory. So she is the piece of shit.
Rally is using a kind of extremism that we're not used to certainly in the last 2 weeks of U.S. presidential campaign.
Ruth, to Ann's point, he's using this rhetoric to get these folks, to get them out to vote. I just wonder, is he?
Oh, and this MSNBC piece isn't rhetoric to get people out to vote. Oh my God. This is an incendiary, violent rhetoric to get people out to vote. This is just insane to me. Okay. I am serious. Like when these people are thrown in jail, I'm not going to shed one tear. I'm not going to shed one tear for these people.
I think that's too slippery a slope if you start throwing people in jail for stuff like this.
I'm just like, the great reckoning is coming, man.
Yeah, but if, I think the problem, number one, the problem is it's a slippery slope, total violation of the First Amendment, but then also it's going to be completely one-sided, which is going to make everything worse. It's not like it's going to be an even application of like, we need to get all the lying media people on both sides. It's all just going to be completely one-sided.
At least you'll get rid of one side.
Yeah, but I think the problem is if you get rid of one side, and I think this is why I think a good example of this is why Twitch is so fucked up. If you get rid of one side that's making kind of extreme remarks, which on Twitch they got rid of like more of the right, not even extreme remarks, but even like mild remarks. If you get rid of one side, it galvanizes and incentivizes, and it basically shows the other side you can just become as unhinged as possible. You can say all the crazy shit as possible. This is how you get
These
Twitch
people are the
becoming.
unhinged people. I just like, this is insane to me. Like
There-
it's a
Was that
like
I'm not
getting rid of
saying
the
otherwise.
unhinged people. It will add some moderation to the political atmosphere.
How? No. You're not. My argument, using Twitch as an example, is if you don't have an even application of getting rid of unhingedness, if you say, I'm only going to get rid of the unhinged on one side, all you do is galvanize the other side to feel confident to become even more unhinged.
Right.
That's all
Yes.
you're,
But
that's
the
all, that's the
argument,
only thing that happens.
so you're saying that the Fox News is just as unhinged as the MSNBC?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, okay.
They'll become
I
even-
fundamentally disagree. I think
if
I think Fox News gets a lot of moderates watching them because they
Mhm.
aren't unhinged. And MSNBC is just, I mean, it's insanity. It's just insanity.
So, I mean, even McMaster was talking about this in the book about how Fox News and Sean Hannity were repeating all this nonsense about how McMaster's was some kind of evil globalist trying to stand in the way of Trump because they were just regurgitating Steve Bannon's, talking points, because Steve Bannon was kind of waging his war against all the people and being this kind of serial leaker in the Trump administration.
Okay. There can be obviously examples of unhingedness on Fox News. I would have to look at the totality of reporting, right? Like if they've got, out of 100 incidents, they've got one incident of unhingedness, then I'm going to be less worried about that than MSNBC, where they have, I don't know, it's like 50% of the things they say are unhinged, or 75%. So I would have to do some kind of analysis like that. I mean, this
Okay,
just,
that's
it's,
fine.
it's,
Just when you have the situation where everyone on Fox News is going to run interference for the peaceful transition of power on January 6th, when everyone's going to run interference for the elector scheme and anything to that, nature, I don't see how it's not both sides creating this and cultivating this completely unhinged
that's your
atmosphere.
perception. Okay.
I know
get
it's
it.
my
I
perception.
get your
yeah.
perception. All right.
Right.
My perception is different.
Okay.
Also
So you don't
doing
think
this to get them
you
to
think if they
go
just
the
banned
next
MSNBC
step.
that Fox would just continue on? It wouldn't become more unhinged. It would just continue at the same level as continuing it.
I would have to see. I would have to see
Okay.
what the reaction was. The difference is, like, Fox News is one conservative outlet, and you always you have like NBC, CBS, NBC, CNN. So you've got all these other institutions that are left leaning, right? This is just like the super extreme left leaning.
Right.
So like getting rid of these people might just balance it out.
Dangerous road, I think, but okay.
Step, and that is to
It's just it's ironic to me that these are the people that talk about misinformation and we have to censor people who are spreading disinformation around. Yet they are the most egregious violators of that idea that they should be spreading truth in the world.
Yeah, I agree.
This fucking major lies here.
Yes.
Just, this is like poisoning America. How is it not?
Poisoning the blood of America. Yes.
Look, I'm avoiding that term, obviously, because I'm smarter than that. But I just, look, I do. The idea of throwing journalists in jail is repulsive. But I mean, obviously, I'm just as repulsed by this fucking nonsense. This is so horrible.
Right.
They're just liars. They're such liars. They're such smear merchants. They don't want a fair fight. And it's so ironic to me that someone can say, okay, Donald Trump is saying, Mexico's dumping a bunch of criminals from their prisons into America to scare people to the polls. But they can come out and say half of America are literally fascists to scare people to the polls, and that doesn't make any sort of impression on you.
On me, it does make an impression on me. What do you mean?
Okay.
I agree. I've agreed with every point that MSNBC, and specifically this overall, MSNBC overall, and for many years they've been like this, and obviously specifically this segment, are completely immoral, completely unhinged, wicked, despicable, evil, divisive. You throw every
Are they
negative,
taking advantage of
you want it.
strategic ambiguity here?
There's no ambiguity in this at all. It's just very upfront.
Are they creating negative stereotypes of conservatives?
Of
that
course.
The conservatives are fascists,
Yes.
proto-Hitler worshiping
Yes.
voters?
Yes.
So everything they're doing is just as bad as Donald Trump.
Yeah. It's that I'm not whataboutising him. I'm not excusing any of this.
Look, it's worse. It's worse because
well,
Donald
I just don't
Trump.
agree that it's worse, but
It's worse because Donald Trump is a politician. These people are supposed to be purveyors of information.
if I think when you're the president, it's not worse. I think the president needs to be held to a very high standard. And I think people running for president need to be held to a very high standard because they're going to have direct influence on all these things. So that's where I disagree that this is worse. I think they're both bad. And I disagree that it would be a benefit to society if Donald Trump wins the election for him to try to throw these people in jail or remove their ability to broadcast or infringe on their free speech in any way.
Yeah,
as bad as this is.
It's a tough situation, but look, these people are going to rip the nation apart. They're dead set on it. They're like, we need to be in power or we're going to tear the nation apart. That's basically, these people are suicide bombers. That's the way that I see them.
I know. Well, here's what's interesting, because I agree with you completely. I guess to me, I literally see Donald Trump as that same as the suicide bomber. This is why I have that principled position about not voting for him because of the elector scheme, is because to me, that is essentially, if I don't win, I'm going to destroy the country. I mean, you have Trump has created an atmosphere where half the country does not believe that elections matter, that elections are secure, that believes that everything has been corrupted, that everything's a conspiracy. And so that's why, to me, I see everything that he's done as just as bad.
Yeah, we're in a terrible place. So I don't know how we're gonna fix it. But this, like, comparing a Donald Trump rally to a Nazi rally, it's
pretty
like
wild, pretty ridiculous.
Massive steps in the wrong direction. Yeah,
definitely.
And look, throwing a couple journalists in jail, I mean, that might change some motivations. That really might get people thinking about what they're saying.
I don't think so. I think that's going to make them all, they're going to say, see, we told you he was Hitler.
We told you he was Hitler. Yeah, no, it is an interesting problem because, like we've constantly said, people do LARP themselves into revolution, right? This is all fun and games for MSNBC until some heads start rolling, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'll be right back. Keep the video going.
Okay. Because this is like cancer to me.
I don't know, to incite violence, to have them do violence if he doesn't win.
Yeah, I believe so. He does need them to vote.
Does anyone believe that there are going to be riots if Donald Trump doesn't win the election? Does anyone honestly believe that? Like, I mean, I need to lay some money down on that one. The idea that there's going to be riots if Donald Trump loses, I don't think so.
Vote, but as we well know from all the GOP senators and
and look, a lot of people on the left will point to January 6th and say, "Oh, but Adam, January 6th happened. That was a riot." If January 6th was a leftist mob, they would have burned the fucking Capitol down. They would have burned it down.
I'm back. What I missed? They're going to burn it down?
It wasn't just, look, there's a difference between the left and the right. The right felt an election was stolen and they were there to make their voices heard. The left would have burned the building down. Let's be real here. Anyway.
Congressmen who refused to
commit
to accepting the results of a free and fair election. The GOP is now an autocratic.
Just all these people are just useful idiots. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This woman only interacts inside a bubble where they all believe. I mean, it's like a religion. It is. We're being assaulted by idiots here. He's like, look, there's JD Vance. That's the, there you go. That's the fascist guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The guy who's married to an Indian woman and has 2 half Indian kids. The fascist.
Party, for the most part, that is dependent on election denial, the big lie that they still won't refute Trump, idea that
And
he
Ruth,
won the 2020 election.
Ruth, let me stop you there for 1 second, because just taking the stage right now is someone who fosters that notion that Donald Trump didn't lose the 2020 election. His vice presidential running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, who is...
God, I'm excited about election night, Sitch. It's just going to be so good. This is going to be so good. Yeah.
Gonna be someone's gonna be crying on the internet. There's gonna be a lot of tears.
There's going to be a
lot
of fucking
coke. A lot of gnashing of teeth. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny. You sent me that, we had that bet about, did we ever formalize the bet? I don't remember that, whether Trump was going to go after people or not.
Yeah. You want to bring that up?
We can. I mean, this video is almost over, I guess.
Look, people are voting for Trump because he is going to throw these people in jail, throw their asses in jail, because he is going to go after his political rivals. And the more I see of this stuff, I can't.
Wow, you're agreeing with it.
I can't necessarily. Well, look, I understand the moral intuitions behind it. I do.
Right.
Like, these people are out there fucking lying about you. They're out there trying to destroy your reputation. They're out there casting you as monsters, and under the same banner, they're doing it to protect immigrants or protect racist stereotypes. That is the lie that they're spinning. So it's disgusting to me. It's totally disgusting.
Do you think that Trump should go to jail for effectively doing that? Everything you're saying, doing it the same thing, lying about the election, attacking Democrats, all to protect his own power base, saying it's, under the guise of protecting American democracy, all that stuff.
Well, the problem that I have is that, I mean, they are in a collaboration here. So, I mean, I don't think you're giving enough weight to the fact that, like, both parties are playing this game of strategic ambiguity. So you seem to be faulting Trump. You're like, it's all Trump's fault. And I think both parties are responsible here. So, but I think you would probably say, as long as Trump avoided terms like blood of the nation, and like if he was super careful about his speech, then that the media wouldn't be able to do their part in the game, right? And I just fundamentally disagree with you.
Well,
I fundamentally disagree.
That's never been my argument at all today or any other time. It's more aligned with the fact that it's like you have two sides of an equation that both are doing bad shit. You have sort of your Israel-Palestine situation where both sides, there's not like a clear person who's like, this is the person who's like completely justified, innocent, everything they're doing is right. It's like, no, you have both sides are doing bad shit to each other. And it's like, okay, like, it's not like Donald Trump is going out there saying completely innocuous things. And then you have big bad MSNBC here just completely spin them. It's like, no, Trump says, bad shit, stuff that's, seemingly strategically ambiguous to get everyone hyped up, to cultivate negative racial stereotypes. And then you have MSNBC take something that's bad, and then they amplify it 5 times or 10 times. And then you say, well, look at MSNBC being bad for doing the amplification. I'm like, I agree with you. They shouldn't do that. And they are amplifying it and they're making it much worse. But I'm not going to pretend like Trump didn't do the bad thing in the first place.
So do you think Trump is deliberately doing it to create negative stereotypes of whoever?
I don't know if I think he's deliberately cultivating the fear and the negative stereotypes to help win. I don't know if he's doing it I don't think his end I don't think Trump's sitting around like, I want to cultivate racist stereotypes of immigrants. I don't think that's
so
like
then the
goal.
stereotypes are a side effect.
Yes. I don't think it's the goal. I think the goal is to try to win elections by cultivating fear.
If he could come out and say, you know, Mexico's dumping all of their criminals into the United States and there was no side effect of some racist stereotype being created, you'd be fine with that.
I wouldn't be, I mean, it's untrue. I'm assuming it's, unless you had evidence that, the majority of immigrants are being dumped out from prisons for Mexico, right? Like, it's number one, it's just not even true. And then
I don't think it's true either. Look,
right?
I don't think it's true, but I just, that is a huge difference. There are people who are saying the only reason that he's doing this is because he wants to create the negative stereotypes. That's the goal. Racism
no, right. I don't agree with
goal.
that. Yes, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not my position. I don't think that's the goal, is to create negative stereotypes. I think the goal is to make everyone afraid because he thinks that will make them come out and vote for him.
Right. That's what the left, but the left obviously is making the argument that the goal is the racist stereotypes. They think and he's racist and everyone else who votes for him is racist. And
right. But see, that's why, because they think that's why they see all the Hitler stuff, is because they think the goal is to just propagate the racial stereotypes and all that stuff.
Right. And they're wrong.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they're incorrect. And unfortunately, I think Donald Trump does a massive disservice to the entire immigration conversation, the way he frames it. Because I think a big problem with the immigration conversation is that the left, for the last 20 years, has basically, maybe not the last 20, maybe the last 15 years, has basically cast it that if you have any concerns about limiting immigration, you're racist. That's been sort of what the left has been pushing for the last 15 years. And I think that the right is sorely in need of, in this country, is sorely in need of saying, no, we can have limits on immigration. We can talk about limiting immigration. That's not racist. There is ideas about, economic ideas, but there are important ideas about cultural ideas, which is, it is factually true that if you have a population of people and large numbers move to an area, they're going to change that area's, culture, and it's going to change the way that area looks and sounds and behaves. And is that justified if people live in an area and they want, to maintain some kind of, cultural aesthetic or cultural values of the area? Isn't that justified? And unfortunately, we can't really, I think that's true. And I think we in America need to have that conversation. You have other countries that have that conversation, but it all gets lost when we have this sort of like low resolution filter on immigration, which Trump is kind of pushing out there to help himself win, which is just, crime, rapist, crime, rapist.
So I'll ask you, is if Trump is a good boy, right? And he no longer uses a criminal argument, just completely ignores it. Is the left going to stop saying that he's creating racist stereotypes, or are they just going to move on to something else he said?
I think there'd be a definite shift away from that stuff. Yeah. Not everyone, but there'd be a shift away from it for some.
So the left is going to stop saying that he's a racist?
The left isn't, I'm taking issue the way you're framing this. Like, the left isn't one cohesive blob that acts with unity. If you kind of
mainstream media, MSNBC, then
MSNBC will continue to do it. Yes,
they're going to continue to say that he's a racist.
MSNBC will, yes,
but they're going to find the closest ambiguous thing that he says, and they're going to spin
MSNBC
it as
will
Hitler would have said this thing. Okay,
yes, right. But will the New York Times do that? Will NPR do that? NPR probably will. Will the Washington Post now do that? Now Jeff Bezos is trying to push them back to be more objective. Will the Times do that? Will all these other mainstream publications and outlets do that? Will CNN do that? I think they would be less inclined to do all these behaviors, do all these things. Just because MSNBC is going to do it because they're basically just an arm of the Democratic Party now. Now, it doesn't mean that every single mainstream media outlet's going to behave the same way that MSNBC is going to behave.
So then this is the calculation.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, why should I disarm myself if they're just going to... This is the calculation he's making. I'm certain of it. He's like, why do I have to be the good boy?
It might be from a purely cynical perspective, but as a person and someone running for president, I say, well, you should be doing things for moral reasons, not just for your own cynical self-gain.
Okay.
I know that's a naive and idealistic way of looking at, running the country as president, but
Yeah, I think you get zero candidates if you're asking that of politicians, but
I
that's
mean,
just my personal
I
perspective.
disagree completely. This is why, I mean, there was this, Kamala at first trying to run, not be super identity politics at first, was because the view was that people were getting tired of that shit. They didn't really want to hear that shit.
Right.
I
mean, this is 100% identity politics, this video we're watching.
Of course it is. Of
Yeah.
course it is. Right. I do not envision like if Trump ran, and this is why I guess I just completely disagree. If Trump ran as this outsider, had all the bluster they did, said that it was all this government blow, all these things, right? And he just didn't do January 6th, didn't use, he talked about how he needed to limit immigration, but didn't use this hyper incendiary rhetoric. I think he would be one of the most beloved presidents in the entire country for everyone. I don't think, yeah, MSNBC would criticize him and be crazy about him, but I don't think the majority of Americans would believe it. I don't think the country would be as divided. That's the problem, is that Trump keeps serving up shit on a platter for MSNBC to hypercharge.
This is the difference of this is the crux of our disagreement here, because you think it's Trump that's motivating the population, and I think it's the moral intuitions and the state of the current population that is driving the societal change. Like, I think Ronald Reagan obviously made incendiary statements, like he did the whole welfare queen speech and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that took place in this time right now, I think it would just, like, he would be being accused of creating negative stereotypes. He'd be comparing his campaign rallies to Nazi campaign rallies. But in your estimation, like, if Trump just dials it back, the situation is we're in like a Reagan type atmosphere. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, because
Reagan didn't say any, he had the welfare queen's line, which people didn't like. I'm sure people call him racist for, but if you were to look at the overall remarks that Trump made and compare them to the overall remarks Reagan made, I mean, it's no contest in terms of Trump using incendiary rhetoric. It's like he's just like completely dwarfs Reagan. I don't agree at all. I think that's part of why Reagan was effective. That's why a lot of Democrats liked Reagan. A lot of moderates liked Reagan. They didn't perceive him as being this like hyper extreme guy.
Do you understand the argument that I just made?
You're saying that it doesn't matter whatever he says, that their media is going to say that he's racist and horrible bigot.
Because of what?
Because that they're trying to protect their own power base.
No, because it's like a bottom up process, that it's the people out there that are responding with this kind of argument that all conservatives are fascist. Like, those numbers on the ground don't change because Donald Trump dials back his rhetoric.
Yeah, but I thought
my argument is we'd be in the same, like, you're making the argument that if Donald Trump acted like Reagan, things would be a lot more mellow. He'd be like a Reagan. And I'm saying that if Reagan existed now and was running, the population would treat Reagan just like Donald Trump. That's the difference.
I disagree, because I mean, I don't believe in manufactured consent. I thought you didn't believe in manufactured consent, because that's kind of
this isn't a manufactured consent.
It is. You're saying that.
No, it's not. Like, people can have moral intuitions. It has nothing to do with manufacturing them. Who knows where they come from? Maybe
you're
they come
saying
from...
that it doesn't. My understanding from your argument is that you're saying it basically doesn't matter whatever Trump would say. The media is going to manufacture this idea about Donald Trump, and that's just going to be what everyone's going to think.
No, I'm saying that the population is going to have a certain reaction that is going to be the same regardless of what the rhetoric is.
Why would they?
Because that's just the social environment that we're living in.
Do you think that if, like, let's just say, like, theoretically, Trump never entered the election and it was like Jeb, right? Do you think that they'd be calling Jeb Hitler right now?
Sure.
Okay. I guess that's just where my worldview is just very different from yours.
I mean,
I think that
hold on.
all
You
these-
accept that people engage in motivated reasoning, right?
Of course they do.
They look for a conclusion, right?
Right.
That they
Yes.
want to come to. So if you have 5 people that want to come to the conclusion that all conservatives are racist, does it matter the rhetoric that they're looking at if they're
The 5 people
motivated to
don't
come to
wait,
that
wait,
conclusion?
Okay, maybe this is our miscommunication here. I agree with you that the 5 people are going to say that no matter what. They're going to believe
Right.
it no matter
So
what.
it doesn't matter. Donald Trump
but-
can dial back his rhetoric.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
people
to
are
the
still going
5
to come to
people.
that
But I'm
conclusion.
not talking about the 5 people at all. Fuck those 5 people. Those people are lost. I'm talking about the majority of Americans, the normies, the people that are not the 5 people. Like, you could
Normies
conceptualize.
don't engage in motivated reasoning.
Not on this. They're
Everyone
not politically
does.
activated to do that.
I think
Then it wouldn't be,
everyone-
if they were, they wouldn't be normies. Okay, this is the way, maybe this is the disagreement. This is the way I conceptualize it. Okay, like if you imagine that you have like 20% of the people on the left are just, doesn't matter who the candidate is, they're going to say that person's Hitler, he's racist, completely motivated reasoning, right? Then you have 20% of the people on the right, we're going to say, it doesn't matter who the candidate is, they're communists, they're fascists, you know, I mean, they're not fascists, they're communists, they're, you know, whatever, you know, horrible left-wing globalist deep state, blah, 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 right? Doesn't matter who the candidate is. Okay, so you have like 20% on both sides are going to be sort of pushing this idea, no matter who the candidate is, that they're this hyper extremist, authoritarian, evil person. And their job, their role is that they're trying to convince the rest of the population of their worldview. Okay. That's what they're trying to do. Now, so if you have 20% of the left is trying to push that the right wing candidate is Hitler, if it's Jeb Bush and you have unassuming Jeb out there, it's like, that argument doesn't really hook into people's minds. It's not going to be very persuasive because everyone listens and looks at Jeb and they just don't perceive it. There's nothing to grab onto. There's no kernel there for them to sort of hyperbolize, to use to make their tree, you know, blossom. But then when you have Trump and he's saying all this shit, like they're sending rapists, when he says they're poisoning the lifeblood of our country, when he says that they're vermin, that they have bad genes, when he's saying all these things, it makes it super easy for the 20% to sink their hooks into that and then to hypercharge that and then to shout that out at everyone else, and everyone else to say, well, look, he said this crazy shit.
Okay.
That's how I kind of conceptualize it all.
I think 100% of people engage in motivated reasoning. So
yeah, but not about the same issues.
No, they engage in motivated reasoning where morality is in play, and politics is just morality laden, obviously.
Okay.
I mean, it's true.
Okay, we're talking. I don't think that's really
the disagreement. The disagreement is clear. Like, I see it as like a bottom up process, and you see it as kind of a top down process.
I don't even know how you could conceptualize it that way.
Well, because you're saying that the rhetoric matters,
yeah.
And I'm saying that the population is motivated reasoning, and the rhetoric is really not as important to the outcome of the scenario.
Why are we more divided now than we've been? If that was the case, why hasn't it just been the same level of hyper division for the last 40 years?
Because the situation that they're causing people to motivated reason towards is becoming more and more dire. That's why. So look, if people are motivated reasoning that somebody is just one level of distasteful, and they're motivated reasoning someone to like literally Hitler, it's just a different outcome. You're going to get a different social response.
No, but I'm saying, like, why haven't, if this is the way it works, I mean, did they just discover this now? Why haven't they been kind of using this from the beginning, just to call everyone literally Hitler? I mean, I do remember they were attacking Bush.
There were social norms against it. That's why.
But I mean,
those social norms have deteriorated.
Right, but that's part. Well, I agree, and I think part of that is because of Trump's rhetoric has deteriorated those social norms. Number one, but then number two, I mean, as a counter to this claim, I'd say, look at Bush. There was, a lot of people on the left called Bush Hitler, called them, totally evil because of the wars and everything, and there was some contingency of people on the left that agree with it, but it's nowhere near like it was with Trump at all. So obviously, like, there has to be. This is, I guess, the disagreement. I think for a lot of people, not everyone is going to be convinced by the same things. Not everyone's moral intuitions are going to be activated by the same things. There needs to be some there for something for them to hook onto. And with Bush, despite people calling him Hitler and calling him all these bad things, for a lot of people, there wasn't a there for them to hook onto.
We disagree. We understand the
Okay.
disagreement. Okay. It's
That's
like,
fine.
Is now taking the podium. Not sure we're going to take this, but Ruth, finish your response.
Yeah, that now I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry, Ruth.
I lost my train of thought. All I can think of is Hitler. This is so funny.
Get your train of thought back, and I'm gonna come to Anne. Anne, if you want to pick up on what Ruth was talking about. In fact, let me read something.
This lady's so serious. She's like, look, I just watched Schindler's List right before this fucking interview. I'm ready to go to town here. She sees herself as Oscar Schindler. She really does. She's like, I'm saving the American people.
All the Jews, yeah.
Yeah. From this terrible future.
You wrote also in this Atlantic piece that actually mentions Ruth. There was a rally that Trump did where he stood in front of a huge slogan, Trump was right about everything. And you write, this is language borrowed directly from Benito Mussolini, the Italian fascist. Soon after the rally, the scholar Ruth Ben-Ghiat posted a photograph of a building in Mussolini's Italy displaying his slogan, Mussolini is always right.
So this indicates to me that people around Trump are deliberately echoing this language, that this is part of their game, that for whatever reasons, whether it's to get out the vote or whether it's to prepare people to commit acts of violence after they lose the election, I don't know, but they do know what they're doing. They're not making accidental allusions to the 1930s. You don't do that by accident or by mistake.
Well, they shouldn't have invited all of those Jewish people to that fucking rally then. God, they fucked up.
They should have invited that they should have dug up the corpse of the last surviving Holocaust survivor and reanimated him for the rally.
So bad.
Right. And Ruth, I'm just wondering, to Anne's point, I mean, we've never seen this before in American politics. We've never heard this language from the top levels of American politics. I'm just wondering, can we as a nation pull back from the brink that we're hanging off of?
If only Donald Trump would drop out of the race, we could. Imagine that. He's so selfish, only thinking of himself. He could spare the entire American people if he just if he just conceded the election today and just gave it to Kamala Harris. That's what he should do for the good of the country and the good of
answer,
Jonathan
right?
Capehart.
That would be the answer.
Yeah. I don't think so. The woke people scare me 10 times more than Donald Trump scares me. So this MSNBC bullshit scares me way more than Donald Trump. It's just, I can't see it any other way. So
we can certainly,
because mass delusion scares the fuck out of me. So, and I think this mass delusion is scarier than the mass delusion that the election is stolen and that we have to fix our elections. We have to deal with a corrupt election system. Isn't that a less bad situation than literally Hitler has taken over the country?
I agree that literally Hitler is. Yeah, I agree that all of your institutions are totally corrupted and failed, and so the literal only person you can believe for truth is me. I agree that's slightly less bad than literally Hitler won the election. But that's the problem, is that it's cultivating this atmosphere. It's a good thing that I think that Trump isn't Hitler, that Trump isn't really that ideologically motivated. Because if he was, I would be a lot more scared of him. I think the fact that he's not ideologically motivated is kind of saving grace. because he has cultivated this entire atmosphere, this entire attitude in half the country that you cannot trust literally anything or anyone except for him. And I think that is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah. It would be a lot tougher to make that argument that all the institutions have failed if you didn't have this giant failure of the mainstream media just, shoved in your face every single day. So I think the
I agree
mainstream
with you.
media
Yes.
is obviously,
Yes.
they're the ones
Right.
that are giving fuel to this. All of our institutions have failed, right?
Just
The
right.
mainstream media is the institution people most interact with. So when they see the failure there, they don't necessarily know what's going on at the Department of Transportation, right?
But that's the problem, right?
Yeah, that is a
Is that
problem.
the
But that's the
conflation of
mainstream
like,
media's fault. That's not Donald Trump's fault.
well, so I was going to say is that that's the problem, is the conflation of like, well, because the mainstream media is failed in their coverage of Trump, or they're very biased against Trump, that therefore that means like every institution, the media, everything, I mean, the elections, everything, you can't trust anything except the words out of Donald Trump's mouth. And is the
Right.
media to blame for that? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's the inverse of the thing that I was talking about with Trump and immigration, where Trump, makes some incendiary like thing, and then the media kind of hypercharges it and runs with it. It's the same, like the media, just like the inverse with the media. The media does like some shitty fucking reporting that's like horrible. And then, Trump takes it and then hypercharges it. And then all the institutions are corrupt. And people are saying they tried to kill Trump. They. Like, who's the they? Like, there's some sort of, conglomeration of people all working in, conjunction against him.
Yeah. I don't think you should blame the Department of Transportation for the media's failure.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Right.
But look, the Department of Transportation is going to fail if this woke mind virus continues to take over the Department of Transportation. I think that's clear.
Okay.
If they're more
disagree with
interested
that.
in equity than making efficient roadways, they're going to fail.
Sure. But I mean, I agree. But that's why we need an objective, we need sense-making institutions and sense-making apparatuses that are based on the principles of Western liberalism and at least trying to be objective. Yeah.
Who would you rather staffing the Department of Transportation, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump?
That's the
It's a
dangerous
fucking
question. It's a very
like,
bad, because it's like with
one way
Kamala,
you're
I
going
don't
to
know
get
if I
woke
trust her.
incompetence.
Right.
The other way you're going to get just wanting to basically defund everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
We're complete
problem.
we're complete meltdown.
I know.
Oh my God, we're so fucked.
Yes.
Wow. Isn't it Donald Trump by a hair? At least he believes in meritocracy, right?
He doesn't. He believes in loyalty
Oh,
to
fuck.
him.
Maybe it's a coin toss.
Yeah, that's why I feel like it is kind of a coin toss. So there was a clip, maybe we'll watch it, where like Bill Maher was talking about how the left needs a sister soldier moment to have like Kamala, which is not going to happen, but to have a Democrat come out and basically say that all woke shit is just like fucking awful, to sort of deal with this problem that you're talking about. And Kyle Kalinske is just so like, doesn't understand it at all. He just remotely cannot perceive it. He's so biased that he just cannot perceive what Bill Maher is talking about and doesn't see the legitimacy or usefulness of such an act.
Yeah. Well, they just see it as affirmative action and fighting racism. They don't see they don't even believe in the meritocracy, right? Kyle Kalinske thinks anyone could run Tesla. He doesn't know the story of Elon Musk going to live at the factory for 2 years.
Right. Do you want to watch, because we're kind of pushing on time here, do you want to watch the Mediasan thing real quick?
I want to watch the Donald Trump disavowing white supremacy. It's a 3-4 minute clip, especially after this. And especially after our contentious conversation.
Are you talking about the Charlottesville clip?
No,
what are you talking about?
I sent you a clip. It's by The Rabbit Hole, a compilation of Donald Trump condemning white supremacy. It's comedy gold. It should be the last thing
Wait,
in
you
your
sent me?
mentions.
I sent you a rabbit hole clip that was Van Jones saying identity politics was bad. The
Here,
last thing you sent me was the Colin Ruggs thing.
maybe it didn't come out.
I
I'll
don't see
send it to you.
But
Is there a super chat you can read while I get it?
well, I don't really want to watch some. This is kind of the problem. And I was thinking about this because you're very, as I've learned working with the comic on you, we have very different. What's the word? Like mental learning styles. Like I'm very conceptually oriented, and you're very visually oriented.
I'm very conceptually oriented as well.
I feel like you're a lot more visual than I am. I'm not visual. I'm like visually autistic. I'm not really that visual at all. And so I feel like, I need to have like a compilation of all like the shitty shit Donald Trump says that present to you. And then you say like, oh, okay, yeah. Where if we just have like a visual representation of all the times Donald Trump is saying like the good things, it's like, okay, well, that's only telling like half the story.
You based an entire argument on two things Donald Trump had said, one of which was a joke that he could stand on Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and he'd still be as popular.
I didn't even bring that up today. What are you talking about?
Well, I'm just saying, it's like, that's when you're talking about all the horrible things that Trump says, like, get me the compilation. I'd love to see it.
I'll go do that. If you want, I can go get, I'm sure someone on the left has made a compilation of all the, racist-y things that would be, that he'd be accused of racist that he said.
Find it now. I mean, I'm certain I've seen them all. I guarantee you I have. There are so many of them are like totally out of context clips. So, but why do you not want to watch this?
Because I feel like it's only showing half a picture of something.
Don't you think we just saw the other half of the picture when we watched the MSNBC?
It's not half a picture I agree with. Half picture I said I don't agree with.
Okay. So you want the picture, look, we can watch this another time and we can find the incendiary stuff that Donald Trump says. So It's like an equal viewing. Mm-hmm. You feel this is propaganda in favor of Donald Trump?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, can't we just watch it and you can pause it and say when it is propaganda?
Well, I don't
just start talking and I'll pause it.
I don't have every single time Donald Trump has said something offensive cataloged in my mind because I'm not David Pakman, because this isn't something that I spend a lot of headspace thinking about.
We went through the MSNBC clip and we paused it and said, look, this is obviously propaganda. This is unfair. Why don't we just do that with this clip? You just pause it and you go, this is unfair.
Because if you just have a clip compilation of Donald Trump saying, I condone racist or whatever, I say, okay, that's good. But then if he turns around and says something that's strategically ambiguous for the racist, it's like, well, okay, well then who cares? Like, what's the point then? What does that mean? Does it mean anything at that point?
So you're saying he can condemn racism as much as he wants. He just needs to stop saying that Mexico's dumping their criminals in America.
Yes. What do you mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if you have the CRT person says till they're blue in the face, I'm not racist against white people, and all they talk about is how whiteness is evil, do I care that they keep saying that they're denouncing racism? Okay. No, because that's not what they're doing. That's not the action that they're doing. That's not what they're saying the next sentence.
So Donald Trump can denounce the KKK. He can denounce white supremacy as much as he wants until he stops saying that the other countries are dumping their criminals. Venezuela is dumping their criminals in America as a political talking point. Then you will believe that he doesn't believe in white supremacy.
As I said earlier in the conversation, I don't believe Donald Trump is a white supremacist.
Okay.
I even said I don't think his goal is to cultivate racist stereotypes. His goal is to cultivate fear of immigrants because he thinks that will help him win the election. It's a very self-serving thing. He's not trying to cultivate some sort of philosophical form of racism on the country. I don't think he cares about any of that stuff.
Okay. Why doesn't the media join him in denouncing racist stereotypes.
If Donald Trump says, I don't like racism, I denounce the KKK, I denounce racism, and the next day he comes out and says, you know, the majority of immigrants coming to our country are evil rapists that are poisoning the lifeblood of our country, then I'm not gonna say, well, the day before he said he's anti-racist, so I guess it's okay. Like, why does that absolve? Like, I don't understand how that absolves him from the comments he makes right after.
I mean, I would have to look at the context of each of the clips. I know, obviously, he said stuff that, I mean, I would say those are kind of one-offs. He could say something inarticulately, and the media is going to run with it as if he said it completely intentionally. So,
but
you were saying that it is intentional.
It's so
how many times has he said poisoning the blood? How many times?
I think he said the poisoning the blood thing once.
Only once.
Yeah, and then he said the bad genes thing once after that.
Okay.
And then he said, this is after he said the rapist comment multiple times. This is after he said the criminal comment multiple times. It's after he said they're eating the pets, which we had that whole argument about. Like, it says this. I would be more, I guess, inclined to agree with you if this was like just a one-time thing. He inartfully said something and people just kind of took it out of context. But it's very consistent. This is the consistent pattern from the very first time he ran for president. The very first speech he ever gave is trying to cast the majority of immigrants as horrible criminals coming across the border to do crime to you. That has always been like the drumbeat.
I think a major part of our disagreement is just I blame the mainstream media and you blame Trump. That's it in the broad strokes.
No. I blame Trump and the mainstream media. You only blame the mainstream media. That's the disagreement.
No, I blame Trump too. But look, I blame Trump 10% and the mainstream media 100%. You blame Trump 90% and the mainstream media 100%.
No, I blame 50-50.
That's a huge difference.
I blame it 50-50.
Okay, so you think 50?
Yeah, I think it's 50-50.
Okay, so it's 50% Donald Trump's fault, and it's 50% the media's fault.
Yes.
And just to be clear, I think that it's 10% Donald Trump's fault and 100% the media's fault.
Don't you mean 90%?
No, on their. Oh, I guess we're blaming.
I was like, okay.
So okay, 90%. Yes.
Right. Okay, so you're 10-90. I'm 50-50. That's disagreement.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, definitely. They're both involved in this.
Super chats?
Yeah, let's do it.
Katie Novaneko for 7 months says legacy media try not to add to political polarization challenge impossible. That's very true. That's very true. Sketch for $10 says, hey, Jubilee, look at me, bitch. There you go. General Hydra for $2 says, oh, a Jew in the Trump rally are Nazi. That's an insult. That would be, yes. Actual Justice Warrior for $10 says, are you throwing my friend Ryan Gerdusky under the bus? His joke was hilarious and not at all a threat. I've spoken to him for years via Twitter Spaces. He's quick-witted and sharp. Defend comedy. We didn't even get to that. Section. I did think it was pretty funny. But then there's an interesting argument there, too, about, I don't know, maybe we'll watch it tomorrow, is about the claim that Mehdi Hassan is saying that all the Trump people are Nazis. So isn't it fair for Ryan to sort of hit back with the pager joke? No, maybe we'll look at that tomorrow. Mr. Middleman for $2 says, Adam, his name is not Kill Tony. That's his podcast. I think I was calling him Kill Tony too. It's because I don't know how to pronounce his last name. So
you guys know who we're talking about.
Tony Hitchcliffe. So Brian for $5 says, Jon Stewart has some horrible takes at times, but he's not afraid to say something outside the party lines. I gotta respect at least that. Yeah, that is true. Jon Stewart's kind of this weird, I guess, everyone's got like their little things. Jon Stewart very famously said that it was ridiculous not to think it was a lab leak. And he's, defending this because obviously, it's like a comedic thing. So you got to give Jon Stewart credit when he's able to, bat outside the lines, so to speak. I wish Jon Stewart was more like Bill Maher in his ability to fought off the woke mind virus. He would have been a very useful ally. Unfortunately, sort of seemed like he got completely indoctrinated when he had his Apple podcast by his young staff. Drusky for $5 says, "Who needs Trump or Harris when you have Adam creating new jobs through leaving shopping carts in the parking lot?"
Awesome. Yes, I'm a job creator. Thank you for noticing.
Sitch's phallus of malice for JD. It's a good name. I do like that.
Oh,
It's very funny. For $5, says, "I'm stuck with a joke for 2 weeks now." Worth it. Worth it. Still blame S class though. Yeah, you can only change your username every 2 weeks or something.
I guess, but that's a good
funny.
username. Look,
That's pretty funny.
That's
There
what you
go.
need for election night. Come on.
I like it. I do like the phallus of malice. Anonymous Cow for $10 says, "Sucks the Jubilee stream got killed. I like the show, but the frame of 25 versus 1 is so bad. Could you imagine yourself rushing to a chair just to have Hassan smugly misinterpret your points?" Yeah, it's funny because like it definitely makes all the 25 people look kind of like
Dumb.
chumps or cocks a little bit, doesn't it? Like
It does, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm like, just it's not a good look. I wouldn't want to be the one. I mean, I'm sorry, I wouldn't want to be the 25 in that scenario. So Shadow to Bravo for $20. Thanks so much. Says the Nazi rally was even held in that same building. Oh, really? The old Madison Square Garden used to be 10 blocks. You said again, but I think you mean away. 10 blocks away from the new one, so they can't even get the most basic facts right. Wow, look at that.
It's not about the facts. It's about the narrative.
Mm-hmm. Jose Calajero for 16 months. Thank you so much. Says the New York Knicks and Rangers are the most fascistic professional sports team. They play at Madison Square Garden just like Hitler. True. Don Trump for $50. Thank you so much. Says, "Sitch, Adam, I did rap battle. My bars were the best." Quote, "Your party so pro-choice, you canceled the state's rights to vote. The way you divide our country, I'll call you Camel Toe Harris. You couldn't make your own way. You couldn't make your own kids." Yeah, those were lines in the epic rap battle between Kamala and Trump. They're pretty good. I think Trump clearly won in the epic rap battle version.
Wow, I guess I have to see that.
You check out. It's pretty funny. Kale for $5 says, "It's clear Trump is baiting. Largest mass deportation program in history on day one is promised. Let's hope it just be another broken promise."
Yeah, I think obviously it's that sort of rhetoric is probably going to stem the flow of immigration already, right? Why are you going to pay $10,000 to some coyote to smuggle you into America when the chances of you getting deported are high because Republicans take office? So
I believe the numbers have been, I don't know what they are this month. I know they've been going down pretty dramatically. I don't know if that has anything to do.
Of course they're going down.
With the well, no, I mean they've been going down for like the last 3 months. I don't know if that has anything to do with the executive. Coming. I don't know if that has anything to do with the executive order. I don't know if that has anything to do with just whatever's going on in South America has changed. So I have no clue. But.
So you don't think the rhetoric means anything?
I would assume that there's going to be some amount of immigration would stop. If whoever was president is saying that they're going to deport everyone, yeah, I would agree that would probably slow down immigration.
Sure. Yeah, if you were in one of these South American countries contemplating giving $10,000 to some coyote to take you to America, and Trump is talking about deporting everybody, don't you think you go, well, maybe I'll wait? Maybe it's risky. Maybe my $10,000 is better spent on something else.
Well, it would depend, A, how bad the situation is wherever they live, B, what kind of information these people get. If they're in a bad situation, which I don't know how much information they're getting. Right. And then C, who is Trump deporting? He can't deport all the people that are sort of overloading the asylum system, which is the current problem, because those are people that are waiting for their trials. He can only deport the people that are here illegally.
This is the thought process of the person sitting in South America?
What?
This is the thought process of the person sitting in South America.
Well, thought process might be you have the one side, the coyote, who's trying to incentivize people to go because they're going to get the money from it. They say, oh, no, no, no. If you go to the border and you just seek asylum, they can't deport you. And then I don't know, who are they going to believe? Are they going to believe that? Or are they going to believe not that? I don't know what's going on in their lives. I don't know how bad the situation is for some of these people. You'd imagine the situation has to be pretty bad for people to go on that perilous journey as it is, right?
I mean, okay. I think people will immigrate just because it's going to be like they think it's going to be 5% better. People do that all the time. So
I'm not sure people would risk. I mean, unless they don't know how dangerous it is. I don't know. In America, we know how dangerous it is. I don't know what knowledge base people get in Central and South America. I would assume they have a pretty good knowledge about it, but I don't think people would risk the journey across the Darien Gap and all that stuff, Brett Weinstein's talking about, if it was just 5% better. Guru Ralph for 27 months. Thanks so much. He says, "Got damn Adam. I'm so glad you're calling out Sitch and his TDS. A-team reigns supreme."
thank you.
There you go.
Look, and then Alex Wright is completely against me. He accuses me
Yes.
of being an old man. Look, I'm
Wright.
I'm amazed at how well I do for being as old as I am. So you guys talk to me when you're my age.
Yeah, Adam is
you're able to have this
sharp.
fucking young
Okay,
whippersnapper coming at me with a million different things. So
that's true. That's true.
It would be nice. We should look. Tomorrow I think Tom Foolery is coming on. He wants to argue that Trump is in fact a fascist, and I think Vanessa is going to come on too, just to chill, maybe argue. I don't know. She was on before and she did a really good job. So, and look, Sitch isn't going to argue. Like, it's maybe like this may turn into a 3v1. I'm the only one arguing. Look, and I'm not going to argue that Trump is not a fascist. I think I would argue I'm kind of agnostic on the fascist thing. We really have to see what happens once he's elected. And, if he does start throwing reporters in jail, even though they totally fucking deserve it, I would think you could make a clear argument that he's a fascist.
Okay. I'm assuming
I don't
think
agree,
Trump is
Sitch.
a fascist, so that's not my argument.
Okay.
But.
Well, look, maybe he is. Maybe he could turn full fascist. We'll see. So I don't know what argument he's going to make, but it should be fun anyway.
Alex Wright for $5 says, Adam has the old man problem of only listening to things he wants to listen to when talking to Sitch, but sometimes he's a good listener.
It's not.
There you go.
It is like, it's easier to argue with Sitch, obviously, when we have a lot of the same points of reference. But recently, like we're really coming to kind of different conclusions. So it's harder to really figure out, okay, where is the disagreement? Like I think the whole bottom up, top down disagreement is something that is kind of elusive. And I want to be in a situation where we're talking about that, specifically. I think that's an important thing to illuminate. I mean, I'm assuming you feel the same way, Sitch. Like sometimes the disagreement is hard to pinpoint.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, thing crashed.
I am look, this is the whole thing about concepts. I think both of us are super conceptual thinkers, and we're kind of, we've talked about this before, building conceptual models for how the world works. So, you throw out manufacturing consent, which is obviously a conceptual model, right, that we both disagree with. But I think the left sees the situation with the media saying things and people responding to it as manufacturing consent, but they have the causation backwards. I really think it's the media that's catering to people's personal intuitions, right? It's the people that are bloodthirsty and want this, It's not the media convincing them to be bloodthirsty, right? That's a completely different scenario.
Well, I guess I'm not following. Are you saying that like you're saying manufacturing consent is when the media like
The concept of manufacturing consent is when the media is going to brainwash people
Right.
into thinking and believing certain things, right?
Yes,
That's
yes.
manufacturing consent, right?
Right.
Another way that you could look at it is you look at the same set of circumstances and you say, no, the population already has a certain set of wants and desires,
Mm-hmm.
and the media is just catering to that to gain audience share. Okay. They're not brainwashing them. Their thoughts and opinions are already their own, and they're developing content that caters to those thoughts and desires. Those are, you can look at the same set of situations, the same circumstances, and if you get the causation one way, you've got one situation. The causation the other way, you got a completely different situation.
Well, I think it's kind of a combination of both those things. Is that there are people at MSNBC, there are people at Fox News that have either a very objective or an intuitive sense of the moral intuitions of their audience and what their audience wants, and they're going to cultivate information in a specific way to feed those moral intuitions while also pushing whatever view they want to push.
Yeah. You could break it down into percentages if you wanted to. I think the bulk of the situation is people have the ability to change people's minds is very low. So people come to their opinions. I mean, they can come to their opinions in a number of different ways, right?
Right. No, what I mean by that, by what I said is like, there was a time period where obviously the right was far more like hawkish, and now the right is far more isolationist. And you can make either argument to people on the right as long as you're sort of framing it in a way that appeals to the moral intuitions of the audience. So, like, I agree with you. People have this sort of moral intuitions hard caked into it, but then maybe you have a situation where some of it's the media kind of going where the audience is going and is being audience captured, and some of it is even if the media is audience captured, they sort of get a sense of how to frame information to feed the moral intuitions of their existing audience.
I think the substance of whatever the argument is more important than the framing it, though. How you spin it.
I don't agree. I think the framing is like 90% of what goes on in these political
Look, see, that's like a fundamental
conversations.
difference then.
Yes, right, yeah.
That is like a fundamental difference.
Caleb for $5 says, you can't cheer when Trump claims Kamala will let illegals kill and rape, and then cry when the media quotes an ex-Trump employee calling him fasci. And then Caleb says another $5. Gross how much charity Adam has for the fringe, election denial, fear mongering, but loses his mind when Trump is called racist when he's only embraced it.
They're literally calling everybody at Madison Square Garden racist. Okay, they're not calling just Trump racist.
Yeah, that is true.
They're calling 50% of the country fascists.
Right.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like, look, I wouldn't be losing my mind if they just were calling Trump a fascist. And I don't give a fuck if his ex-employees call him a fasci. Like, they're obviously disgruntled egomaniacs who are upset that Trump didn't fall in line.
The McMaster book is very interesting in that I think the way I categorize it is that McMaster has a very right-wing military view of how to interact with his boss, which is kind of interesting. Like,
Of course,
he's not
yeah.
really he's definitely criticizing. No, he's not really criticizing. He's definitely very critical of Trump and is definitely like laying out criticisms of Trump. But it's like the way he sort of describes it's like Trump is the president. He's like this force of nature, and you just kind of have to work around him, as opposed to just saying like, oh, he's stupid, he's an idiot, he's stupid, he's an idiot. Like, I feel like if you were to read the Rex Tillerson book, I don't know if he wrote a book, but if there was a hypothetical Rex Tillerson book, it'd just be like shitting all over how much Trump is an idiot, as opposed to just the atmosphere of like working in that environment.
Yeah, I'm sure it kind of tells you what kind of atmosphere there is in those upper echelons of the military, right? I mean, he's
Yes.
like, this is normal. Everyone is an egomaniac.
Right. Well, I'm sure as a military personnel, he's used to. He has some commanding officer who he might not like or disagree with,
yeah.
and he kind of has to just figure out a way to work within that framework efficiently and effectively. Yeah.
Yeah.
So McMaster's big thing was he thought pulling out of Afghanistan was just this huge mistake. Seems to be like the constant thing he's trying to press on Trump the whole time he's in office.
All those guys believe we're going to have another September 11th if we retreat back, if we become isolationist. That's what they believe. So
yeah, they think that, and then also they think they feel like it's a massive betrayal to the people that were,
too.
like,
Yeah,
that
who already
something.
died. Yeah.
I didn't finish it, but I was listening to like the first half of there was that Brett Stevens versus Matt Taibbi, and there are two other people whose names escape me. Kind of this like isolationist versus America World Police model debate.
I did not know.
That's pretty interesting.
Did you send it to me? Because I'm
did
way
not send it
behind
to
on
you,
a lot of shit.
I'll send it to you. I didn't. But...
Yeah. There's a lot of shit I want to watch, and I'm super way behind.
I know.
on.
It's like a lot of things. Yeah.
So much is going on. The election's going on. Oh my God. I'm so excited, Sitch. I'm so excited. Look, I'm if Kamala Harris wins, I'm not going to lose a wink of sleep over it. So
right.
I think there are like fascinating developments on the horizon, whichever way it goes, right? If Trump wins, we get to find out if he's actually a fascist or not. If Kamala wins, we get to find out if she really is going to do anything about immigration, or
she's going to be like rip off the mask and be like, I'm the super woke. Ha ha ha.
Did you see my tweet?
I did see a tweet. Yeah.
I basically said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because I wanted to be on the record when this happens. Like, she's all reserved now, but as soon as she's president of the United States, I said she's going to be as bombastic as Trump, and it's all going to be CRT and women in sports.
Well,
or trans
I was going to
women
ask
in
you,
sports.
do you think she's going to be bombastic in terms of policy or in terms of like rhetoric?
Rhetoric.
Okay.
Look, you can go back and look at her old talks and stuff like that, and she is very bombastic.
Was very, yes, you're correct. You're correct, yeah.
She's like keeping it on the DL. But there's no reason to keep it on the DL once she becomes president.
Yeah. I mean, I guess to some extent, yeah. It's so weird to see like candidate Harris now versus the way she was then, where now she's just so like afraid to say anything. She's got like this script. It feels like every time she talks is like an invisible gun to her head with a script, and she can't deviate from it. Don Trump for $20. Thank you. Says Adam, you're right. Sitch is repeatedly moving the goalposts. Yesterday he did it with, well, first of all, we weren't streaming yesterday, but yesterday he did it with quote evidence. Trump witnesses were not evidence, but Kelly were. Now it's, oh well, every time he has to say a thing, Sitch is becoming CNN. Am I moving the goal? How did I move the goalpost in this conversation today? I don't think that super chat.
I'm not sure
that's
Don's argument. That's not my argument. I mean, my thing is, I just want it clear what we're arguing. So, and I think it is clear. You're not going to change my mind. I'm not going to change your mind. Part of our show, I think, is a testament to just not really trying to change people's minds, but just trying to understand what they're saying. I do think most of political discourse is just straw manning and insults, right? So we'll see. I mean, maybe this is a thing. I wouldn't be cavalier about Sitch's perspective being incorrect because I really don't know what's going to happen. Look, and it's easy for me to say, it's easy for me to get completely disgusted by MSNBC lying about 50% of the American people and think all these motherfuckers should be thrown in jail and like never see the light of day again, right? But as soon as that actually starts happening, I'm probably going to have a much different perspective on that, right? It's going to be like, oh shit, we're really going here. This is really happening. I mean, I do wish there was more. There's a lot of mockery going on about this news piece that we watched, right?
Mm-hmm.
The comparing Trump to Hitler. There's a lot of mockery going on about that, which I think is a good thing. It's difficult for if everyone looks at this and is just like, oh, they're jokes, fuck those people, then that's a good place to be in. Do you agree?
I mean, it is a good place to be in, sure.
Yeah, it's better
yeah.
than thinking that they're serious. So we got to get to that place.
Dialogue.
Just laugh at them.
True. Dialogue
the
always
real
for $5.
dialogue always.
The real dialogue always. For $5 says, it is so wrong that people are calling Trump Hitler. Let me tell you how everyone that doesn't like Trump is a communist, socialist, or anti-American. So,
Well, that is totally unfair, okay? There are plenty of people that don't like Trump. I'm talking about the people who are specifically lying about him.
right. Was that, I don't know if that comment was aimed at you doing that or
it's
in terms
totally
of
aimed at me.
aimed at like Trump and Trump supporters doing that. Because I don't think you're doing that.
I don't do that at all.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair to say Adam's doing that. Ostracy for $5 says, I'm so looking forward to election night. I feel like no matter who wins in the long run, I'll come out ahead. That's a good attitude. That's definitely a good attitude. I kind of feel the same way.
Lots to like, right?
Serial misgenderer for €5 says, did you know that Hitler, just exactly like Trump today, also constantly got called Hitler throughout his political career? Coincidence
or not?
That's a good one.
That is great.
It's pretty good. Mr. Middleman for $2 says Trump's goal is to bait the media for engagement. I think that's definitely part of it. So,
well, it's working.
It is working. I don't know if
He's
it's a
going to
good
get
strategy.
A lot of people voting for him because they're fucking liars.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely motivating.
Caleb for $5 says, where do people get the idea to light ballot drop box on fire in Oregon, Washington, please, or thanks? Who do we blame for provoking this un-American behavior? Do they know who did it yet? I mean, it's in Oregon or Washington, so it's like, obviously the mind wanders to Antifa lighting shit on fire, which is, probably a safe assumption, but I don't know if they know specifically, or if they have any leads on who specifically did it. Because you would think, it's one of those things that you think it would make sense it was Antifa, but then on the other hand, it's like, well, why would Antifa light a Dropbox on fire? Because usually the perception is that the left is the one mailing in all the ballots. So sort of it's like cross odds assumptions. Mike Mills for $10. Thanks so much. Says, does Adam really want journalists in jail for lying, but not Trump? Is he only pro free speech for one side? This goes against everything you both once stood for. Adam needs a break.
Yeah, I mean, jailing people for lying. I think the thing that really rubs me the wrong way is it's completely against the telos of their profession. Like it's like a doctor, killing people or being, mass murdering people, right? You're supposed to be helping people. You're supposed to be healing the sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's completely antithetical to what they're doing. So the job description of politician is like professional liar, a salesman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fundamental, I don't know, maybe I have to say it 25 more times, but
right.
That's the difference that I see. But look, it's a tough situation. It really is. There are laws against fraud. I mean, free speech doesn't extend to like lying to people for personal gain or financial gain, right?
Mm-hmm.
False advertising, that's against the law. And with the MSNBC situation, I do feel like we're treading closer and closer to these things that I would define as fraud or false advertising. Is that wrong, Sitch?
Say it again, the last part.
That we're trending towards fraud, speech that is encroaching on fraud.
I mean, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. I was looking into the ballot box story. They have a suspected vehicle, so they might be able to kind of figure out from there. And also, I didn't know this. I read this article. It said that inside the box, they have some kind of fire suppressant thing that protects the ballots built in. And so that only 3 ballots were damaged by the fire. Anyway.
Hilarious.
So
all the ballots
good.
are made of fire-resistant material now.
Listen, in order to combat the threat of fire, we've decided to cover all the ballots in asbestos before we send them out to people to vote. So there you go. Probably not a good idea. Thaw for $20 says, thank you. Says, okay, flat out, Sitch is wrong now. The media will stop saying Trump is racist if he eases up. Sitch is ignoring the last 10 years. Sitch is holding a politician the same level as the news and then excusing the media's behavior. I mean, I'm trying to be very, very specific that I'm not excusing MSNBC's behavior. I'm saying that their behavior, and I even said MSNBC is going to do what they're going to do. I think the more moderate news sources would not necessarily be engaged in that behavior. And I don't think that their rhetoric would be persuasive to people or as persuasive to people if there wasn't, Trump saying what he's saying. So Alex Wright for $5 says, I don't want this country to become Orban's Hungary. And when Adam says he's fine with Trump doing Orban-like things, that's why there's a reasonable concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary. It's scary that someone can. It's scary that this kind of behavior is like riling the passions in me, who's a pretty moderate person, I think. So I just think if it's enraging my passions to this level, oh my God, what is it doing to other people, right?
Right.
Yeah. So as we'll see. It's not a good thing to do. I mean, the media once had more respect for their ability to do that. But now it just seems like they're down to do that. They don't care. They want to enrage people's passions, right? Maybe they'll get another assassination attempt off.
That's true. Oshacy for $20 says, Sitch, I might have believed the mainstream media would moderate coverage on Trump if he was more clear, but seeing how they talk about Trump and abortion, I don't think it's true. He's very moderate, but they treat him as an extremist.
True. Very true.
I'm trying to think of an example of them. What's an example of them talking about? Like they try to blame him for like the more extreme state laws. That's true. So
they say he's in favor of a national abortion ban. They say he wants to ban IVF. He's in favor of IVF. He wants to make IVF free. I mean, the media will constantly say, "Oh, we just believe Trump is lying." That's their get out of jail free card.
MSNBC journalists are saying that Trump is in favor of a national abortion ban and wants to ban IVF.
Yes.
Well, if you have that clip, send it to me because I don't know if I can call it to memory just now. From like a mainstream, media outlet, but
I'll Google that right up.
Okay. I'm sure you can find something. I mean, I Googled it. I says, Politico, Trump vows to veto any federal abortion ban. CBS, Trump says he would veto a federal abortion ban. CNN, Trump says he would veto a federal abortion ban if elected. It's all from October 1st. So I guess
what did you Google?
I Googled Trump national abortion ban.
Okay.
So, I mean, they're all reporting. The headline is all saying Trump says that he would veto a federal abortion ban if elected. There's a Times article that also shows up.
Add Kamala to that search term and see what happens.
There's also a Times article that says what a Trump win would mean for abortion, which I can't read. I can't discern from the headline what that means, but where should I put Kamala in the
No, let's
search?
Let's move on. We're like
Drew the Dogman for 21 months. Thanks so much. Says at the current levels of entries, people should be scared. This is how countries are destroyed. It has nothing to do with isms. I mean, the problem is if you frame something in a way that morally disgusts half the country, you're just sabotaging your own argument. You're sabotaging your own ability to persuade people. So I don't think it's effective at all. Neocon says for $10 says, if Sitch were to run a campaign for POTUS candidate, he would lose always. Elections are persuasive wars where fears are the nukes. And Sitch suggests unilateral disarmament would win the day. I think that sounds kind of very similar to what I always hear Kyle Kalinske say, or what I always hear Cenk say, where anyone on the left where they say, if only the candidate would come out as a far left candidate, they would win all the elections. If only they wanted socialized healthcare, if only they wanted to say they're going to lock up all the rich people, tax them 99%, they'd win all the elections. And I think it's completely retarded. I think when you look at the polling data, you see the majority of Americans are pretty moderate. There's a reason that that's generally what candidates do. There's a reason Kamala, at least at first, tried to run is like kind of away from identity politics because she's looking at the polling, she's looking at data, and she thinks it's not effective. If it was very effective to do this, they would all do it, and they don't. And the question you have to ask yourself is, and I keep saying this, and like it kind of, I know that like based on your elephant, your moral intuition from the super chatter, you want Trump to say all these things. That's what you want. So therefore you think it's the most effective thing, which I think is a flawed way of thinking, because you have to ask yourself, okay, if Trump says something that's very incendiary that turns off one moderate voter from voting for him, is he gaining someone? Is he gaining some sort of extreme person that's going to vote for him? Or would that person voted for him already? And that's sort of the question. This is why I think part of this thought process is foolish. I think that's why you always have candidates generally, on average, usually run to the middle. It's because they believe, probably rightfully so, that the more extreme people are already going to vote for them, already have them in the can already. You need to appeal to new voters.
Yeah, I think obviously Obama ran on hope and change. Ronald Reagan ran on it's morning in America. I think if you can run on a more aspirational idea, that you stand a better chance. Like I had hoped when Trump literally had this opportunity after the first assassination attempt to brand himself as something completely different, a changed man, and to run on hope and change and making America great again, right? It didn't happen though. So I do think we're so afraid that those negative attacks are working that a lot of times these campaigns, they're trying to beat each other on the negative side. It's much harder to take an aspirational tact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
so, but when they do, and they sail off in the polls, sometimes it works. Sometimes it's easy for them, right? It's like a Reagan, a Clinton, a Obama, and they're just up in the stratosphere and you can't even touch them.
Look at how I think you need to kind of, not you, but the chatter, I think needs to kind of back up and take a kind of forced and not look at the trees approach to this. We're in a situation where you have immigration like an all-time problem. Inflation is an all-time problem. Okay. The foreign policy, you have, all this going on, bad things going on in Israel, bad things going on in Russia and Ukraine. You have all these problems, like pretty large problems that people are seeing. And yet, with all of that, it's insanely close. It's insanely close. Okay. If this was any other Republican candidate that was not Donald Trump. Oh, and also you have the current president had to drop out right before the election because he was not seen as mentally competent to run. Okay. If you had literally any other Republican candidate than Donald Trump, I feel like it would just be such a massive landslide because the environment. The only reason it's close, and this is why I think you're just so off on this. The only reason it's even remotely close is because it's Donald Trump. It's because of the incendiary rhetoric of Donald Trump. It's because of all the negative baggage associated with him, things that you like, but that a lot of moderates don't like. That's the only reason why it's even close right now. It shouldn't be close. This should be a total blowout for whoever the Republican candidate is. Mike Mills for $5 says, never thought I'd see Adam turn into a censorship-loving leftist. Maybe he and Hassan should team up. I don't think that's fair. I think that's completely unfair. So,
I mean,
Frederick.
Usually I can, I'll sober up later. It'll be better.
Frederick Hanning for 45 Donkey Kong dollars says, next time you speak with IRI, Mr. Important, ask him about his lead role in Offspring Pretty Fly for a White Guy music video. It's him, apparently. Yeah, I think, it's funny. We talked about that very briefly on the stream on Sunday that got annihilated from the internet. So yeah, I found out about that. I think Zero Fuck sent me that, and that's pretty awesome. So good for him. RBGH fan for $10. Thanks so much. Says, I think the difference between Sitch's view on Trump and many listeners, many feel a large part of the intel agencies and Pentagon are more corrupt than Donald Trump is. Oh, hold on. My thing just crashed in the middle of reading.
Occam's razor versus Hickham's dictum. Maybe that's Hitchens' dictum.
Hickham's dictum.
Who's Hickham's dictum?
Hickham's dictum. Hickham's dictum is a medical principle that states that a patient can have multiple diseases or conditions that contribute to their symptoms rather than a single cause.
Oh.
I mean, I think that's generally true. So I know it's interesting when reading the McMaster book, you have all these different people, and I'm sure this is very true for every president. Trump is surrounded by all these different advisors, and all the different advisors, they all have their own kind of ideas of how they want things to go, and they're all trying to convince Trump of their various, worldview, essentially. And I think that's kind of the way it always is. So McMasterson really, he really portrays Steve Bannon and Priebus as like just maliciously stupid and bad, and then Rex Tillerson as someone who is kind of completely out of his depth or incompetence, really, in terms of the policy that he's trying to persuade Trump to do. Now, obviously, McMaster has his own ideas of what policies to push for. Thal for $20 says, Sitch, Trump was shot, and the media said he needed to ease up on his rhetoric about a week after. These are the people you keep twisting and turning to give credibility to. That is an insane position to take. I don't know. It feels, Thal, it's a little frustrating where I can just keep repeating myself. Like, there's some people that cannot ever, like, you can only see it in a black and white. You can only see it as like, you have to defend one person or attack the other person. I can't say Trump is 50% responsible, the media is 50% responsible. Like I don't know how many times I can lay that out and say that. I'm not defending the media at all. Because I say Donald Trump is helping cultivate negative things, you should not in your mind translate into I'm defending the media or Sitch is defending the media. I've literally been criticizing the media since my entire career on YouTube. And it is frustrating that no matter how many times I say that, and how many times I criticize the media, it's like, just because I say Donald Trump is contributing to the attacks against him, that's where your mind immediately goes to this. Why are you defending the media? I'm like, I'm not. I'm just saying Trump is doing bad things too, right? Like, you could have Donald Trump come out and he could say, fuck all black people or something. And then the media says, oh my God, Donald Trump says he wants to kill all black people. And I'll be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Donald Trump didn't say that. He did say fuck all black people, which is bad. He did say he wants to kill them all. And then you say, Sitch, why are you defending the media? And I'm like, I'm not. I'm just saying Trump said something that's bad too. That's helping contribute to the hyperbole, the negative stereotypes that the media is cultivating against him. That's the way the world works.
Trump has never said anything near that incendiary, though.
Right. So you got to be careful not to like sort of fall into that framework.
I break it up. The big difference I think you can point to that's objective is that Trump will make one or two statements that you could easily categorize as missteps. The media will lie over and over and over and over and over again, 24/7, 365 days a year. Like, it's just constant. Boom, 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 boom. So it's easier to give credence, to give charity to Donald Trump than it is to the media, who's just hammering the lies again and again and again and again and again. So that's the separation I would make.
Okay. Well, I mean, I disagree because I feel like, you just need to find that compilation or make the compilation of Donald Trump saying at every rally saying something incendiary about immigrants, and say, okay, well,
okay,
there it is. I mean, it's not like the Jordan Peterson situation, which was very clear cut.
But you yourself said he said poisoning the blood once. Like, he's not saying poisoning the blood at every single rally. Poisoning the blood, poisoning the blood, poisoning the blood, poisoning the blood. He's not doing that.
I understand that, but I did say that he was.
So what is he saying at every rally?
I did say that he's continually saying other things, even if he's not saying specific terms, in terms of they have bad genes. They're coming across here with bad They have bad genes that are coming into the country.
You said that he said that one time, which I think you can categorize as a misstep. And he would say, "Oh, don't say that again."
Then he says, as you agreed, consistently this talk about the criminals being sent here and making it sound like the majority of people coming here are murderers and rapists.
He does say that. Look, I give you that. He does say that over and over again. But
so that's why I argue it.
Yes, but that isn't. You can't characterize that in the same ballpark as the poisoning the blood thing. It's just
it's a lesser offense than poisoning the blood. It's still obviously cultivating negative stereotypes that are bad.
Right. Yeah. I agree, but we also agreed that was a side effect of
this is kind of the way it worked. I mean, this is kind of the way it works with Hassan and with other people. They'll say a bunch of kind of like incendiary things that are sort of like going up against the line. And they say one thing that's like really past the line, then they'll kind of bring it back. And then people say, aha, that one time that Hassan, said America deserves 9/11 or whatever he says, that's when the mask slips for like the second he says like the true thing. And then he kind of goes back to skirting the line again. Right. This is sort of the way that people perceive this information, perceive character.
I got you.
Thal for $20. Thanks so much, Thal. Says also Sitch and Adam, I'm extremely disappointed in both of you, watching you for years, spending thousands of dollars on you, and yet you still won't let me audience capture you. Shame. Well, thank you, Thal. I do really appreciate it. Thank you for
nice
being with us for so many years. So
it's funny because all the people who call us audience capture they don't get it. Like they're so like business illiterate. We make 10 times more money not being audience captured.
Right.
Because you guys love arguing with us.
There you go. Well, and also, I mean, that's funny that you say that, but it really shows you kind of like how delusional
they're fucking idiots.
The people that make the claim about us being audience captured is. So, because they obviously don't listen to the show.
Yeah.
Drew Dogman for 2 hours says they called Nixon a racist for no fucking reason. I don't think Nixon employing the Southern strategy is no reason, but okay.
Lethal Strain sent me something that they called Reagan a Nazi too. So, but I haven't looked.
You're gonna always find someone that calls a Nazi.
Someone I know,
does it stick? How persuasive it is to the majority of people. So
yeah, and I think we're in this situation now where the majority of people on the left do think people on the right are fascist Nazis.
You could be correct.
It's stuck.
Yeah. Bob Van Gogh for $20 says Trump's base likes him because he offends the left without shame. The left media then profits from calling him racist, which he also signals the left is offended. There's no incentive for Trump to tone down his rhetoric. I mean,
yeah, that's true.
I think, well, it depends. If he wins, then you're correct. If he loses, then I guess that would
be a good incentive, right?
Yeah, so
a little
it's
late,
hard to tell.
But whatever.
We won't know, I guess, until the election. But I guess even if he wins and it's still his candidacy is kind of marred with hyper division, then maybe. And that's another thing McMasterson talks about, is that Trump is very sensitive to the constant attacks on him from the media, and that's actually affecting Trump's judgment on a lot of issues. So Kiki Lee for 1 month says DM'd a side-by-side of Tapper and Trump on X. Adam,
I'll check it out.
Mitch for 2, Ossibuck says, please cover the new Ben Shapiro versus Sam Harris debate. I mean, I'll finish listening to it. I listened to the first half of it. I didn't jump out at me as like super exciting to cover, but I'll listen to the rest of it. And if Adam listens to it, maybe I was a way in there. So
what is it? What am I supposed to listen to?
Shapiro versus Harris debate.
Oh yeah. Do you think we're gonna cover it?
I don't know.
We only have like one Sunday before
the election.
Yeah.
Yep. You listen to it. You let me know. Neocon Sitch for $10 says Trump uses extreme because this is how you get people to listen. It's the same reason pro-life people use rape babies, or why BLM uses a small number of unarmed cop murders. Nobody cares about the mean cases. I mean, that is true. That definitely being hyperbolic, using the extreme cases is a way to get people to listen. I don't disagree with that, but that doesn't justify if you use that technique to basically cultivate negative stereotypes about entire communities. So I don't think it's right when I turn on Twitter and I see the same handful of accounts. All they do all day on Twitter is post videos of Black people assaulting white people. I know it's a handful of extreme cases, but that's all they do. It doesn't mean crime is an issue, but I don't think doing it that way is the way to solve the problem. So Fate of Morality for $2 says A team scoring these consistent dubs. Go Adam.
Cool.
Tom waiting for $5 says watching the Hills coverage of the guy kicked off CNN. Watch the coverage. It's juicy. Yeah, maybe we'll cover it tomorrow. It is pretty funny. So Josh Anderson for $5 says all illegal people crossing the border are criminals, Sitch. Sure, you could say, well, first of all, number one, a lot of people that we're talking about in this current climate, they're not crossing the border illegally. They're coming up to the border and requesting asylum. So that doesn't even apply to them. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, obviously, when Trump is talking about, cultivating the negative stereotype of all the criminals coming to the border, he doesn't mean, well, they're criminals because they cross the border illegally. He very directly means that they are rapists or murderers or violent criminals, which he explicitly says. So
they're the ones spoiling the blood of America. Jesus.
Exactly. So that comment doesn't really apply to, the conversation we're talking about.
The economic migrants are not a problem.
RBGH fan for $5 says Mussolini made the word fascism. His definition is the merging of the state and the corporation. That was his definition. Webster till 1987 when a corp bought it.
Oh, that's fascinating. They're like, what?
Well, when he said corporation, I'm assuming he didn't mean like business corporation. He meant like because what is it? The fascistic like economic policy is corporatism, but they don't mean like corporations. They mean corporate in terms of the Latin, like corporate means the body. And it's
I don't know the history of the etymology of fascism. So,
well, it means that like in fascism, when they say corporatism, what they mean is that every aspect of the country should work in unison as a body together. And so they thought that's why they were anti like private enterprise, because they thought that the economy and the government should all be working towards some sort of unified common goal, presumably with the president or the dictator as like the brain kind of dictating things. So or directing things. Philip Heisler, thanks so much for $20.
Yeah, thanks. Nicely. That's your first super chat. Very generous.
Thank you. Yes. Nomad for 16 months says, interesting talk, guys. Although I do believe Trump should be responsible for what he says, I also believe no matter what the media will always spin it.
True.
True centrist right there.
90% of the time it's the media's fault. Nomad knows it.
Tuned Twanton for $20. Thank you. Says, whether you like Tony Hinchcliffe or not, it is crazy people willingly can't seem to understand jokes. If you find it funny or not, can we take a page from the Patrice O'Neill book and say it's a joke? True. Very, very true.
It sucks that he upstaged the entire rally. So it was a massive mistake to book him.
Yep. Well, it's only a mistake if a bunch of Puerto Ricans don't vote for Trump in Pennsylvania. Otherwise, maybe it's a good thing. So.
Well, no, I think they had a lot of interesting stuff going on at that rally too. That's over. No one's talking about any of that stuff. It's completely overshadowed by this one edgy joke.
Right. Kristen Brandon for 2 hours says the only trustworthy news is The Onion. There you go.
True.
Thal for $20. Thank you so much, Thal. Says, question for you guys. I remember the 90s, the right was aristocratic. Now the left seems to be Kamala. I think the influence for that is coming from the EU. It makes sense culturally and matches the left in the EU. I know it's weird.
Haven't they always had the Hollywood and all the celebrities and stuff?
They have always had Hollywood, but the right used to have like the business elites until recently.
I don't know. Elon Musk, pretty much top of the hierarchy there. I guess we're going to take Elon Musk out of the title. We never talked about
Elon Musk. Yeah, you can take him out. Yeah, it is interesting to see a sort of the waxing and waning, because obviously the far right is still highly aristocratic in terms of being, pro-elite theory, pro-monarchy, though the moderate right, or I should say the mainstream right now is like very populist, which is very anti-elite. I don't know if it's like a philosophical thing or just because the perception is that the elites that are in charge are like very left wing. So I don't know if it's like like the right being anti-elite right now. I don't think there's some sort of anti-elite mentality bred into the right-wing philosophy. It's just that the elites are viewed as mirroring the left-wing philosophy, which I think for the most part is more true than the right-wing philosophy. So because of the wokeness and all that stuff, corrupting all these institutions. Same thing, like I don't think the left, I mean, the left generally shouldn't be philosophically pro-elite. I guess I don't know, maybe because they're supposed to be the ones that are like dismantling all the hierarchies, but then they'll side with the elites as long as the elites are saying things that they want to hear. So I guess both sides are sort of acting kind of pragmatically as opposed to philosophically, which is probably the case with a lot of political movements.
I should say we still have 1,000 people watching the show right now. If you super chatted on Sunday on the stream that got taken down, supposedly the super chat isn't processed until the stream is finished. And if the stream doesn't come back, you should get your money back. YouTube will refund you the money for the super chat. So check your statements or whatever to make sure if you super chatted and the stream is gone forever that you didn't get charged.
Brian for $10 says, Sitch, the Southern strategy is a myth. You should look into it. That claim makes no sense with the additional context of the addition on the ground facts at the time. Okay, I'll check it out. I'm unfamiliar with the Southern strategy being untrue.
Debunked.
Yes. I mean, let's see. I hope there's someone calling it a myth that I can trust that's not Candace Owens or Dinesh D'Souza, because those are the first two that
No
come up.
way.
And I type in myth, and I don't trust either of those sources, but I'll look. So I'm curious.
You got to look at the facts. Just because it's Candace Owens doesn't mean
that
it
is
can't
true.
be true.
I should look at the fact claims as opposed to the conclusions they draw.
I'm not hopeful though.
I'm not hopeful either, but Christian Brandon for 2 hours says, Sitch, we must send one big weird to the border. I don't know what that means.
Right.
One big weird.
Wall.
Lemur Wrench for $2 says, Adam, sorry if this was already asked, but when it came to your argument that Kamala calling Trump fascist is being worse than what Trump has said, are you aware that Trump has repeatedly called Kamala a fascist during rallies?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did that change anything?
No, because Kamala obviously is a fascist. Such, you know that. And see, that's a joke. He laughed. He got it.
I got it. Saldos for 2 hours says, who cares about boring old Trump? Thanks to Luce, the Catholics now have God and anime on their side. What's Dawkins got? Checkmate, atheist. Sidebar, it's fun to see all the neo-right types lose their mind because of modernity.
True. Oh, yeah. Modernity rocks.
Salvador says, just jumped in. Disagree with Adam about the Puerto Rico joke. Puerto Ricans in other states can vote and they seem pissed. Imagine if he said there's a giant pile of garbage in the desert. I think it's called Israel.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I think you would agree that could have a detriment. I don't think you disagree. You agree that joke could have a detrimental effect on the election.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. You were just you were saying that Kamala's response to it was stupid, which I agree with.
Yeah. Kamala saying because of a joke that I need to devote all my energy to righting the wrongs of this joke for the Puerto Rican. It makes everyone go, wait, I thought we were supposed to build 3 million homes. No, a joke has been levied against the Puerto Ricans. Now we have to rebuild Puerto Rico.
Arismus for $2 says, Sitch, I think you're being unfair. Trump doesn't cast immigrants categorically as criminals. He casts illegal immigrants that way. It's still not fair, but it's not racist. Illegals are unvetted, so it's a legitimate fear.
He said it wasn't racist.
Well, first of all, no. I said it can cause racism. I don't think.
But you said Trump himself.
Yeah, I don't think the goal is to cause racism. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah,
right.
It's a side effect, which we
right.
talked in detail about. Yeah.
Number one, I don't know if I'd have to go back. I don't believe he's made clear that he's like, I'm only talking about illegal immigrants. That does not apply to anyone that comes to the country seeking asylum through the asylum process. I don't believe that distinction has ever been made clear. Number one. And number two, even if he did say, I'm only talking about illegal immigrants, that would still be completely untrue and would still cast very negative stereotypes about people trying to come into the country illegally as all being rapists and criminals and blah, 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 blah. So
I
which
mean,
would
I
still
bet
cause
that clip
negative
does
racist
exist.
stereotypes. So
I bet
I don't
that
think
clip
really
does exist of Trump saying, I'm only talking about the criminals. I'm not talking about immigrants. He would say, I love the immigrants. I love our immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants. We are not a nation of rapists and murdering criminals.
Well, that's what happens. Is he says they're sending their rapists. Some are fine people, but they're sending their rapists. So the implication is majority rapists. And then the next day he's on The View and they're like, you can't say that they're all rapists. He's like, no, some of them are good. I agree. They're not all rapists. And it's like, okay. So kind of.
Do you understand the argument though that he's making? He's making an argument that Venezuela is dumping criminals in the United States and Kamala Harris is asleep at the wheel and just letting them all in.
Yes, I understand that
argument. That's the argument.
That's the more recent argument. That wasn't the original argument in 2016, but yes, that is the argument. Yes. Now,
how? I mean, when he says they're sending bad people, how's that not the original argument? They're murderers and they're rapists. How's that not the original
if that was
argument?
the argument in 2016, that would be completely.
It's the same argument.
It would be completely just a complete lie because at least now there was at least that one instance of Venezuela, maybe releasing a bunch of people who got sent to America, where I don't believe that was going on in 2016. So that's just, I mean, sure, I guess if he's just completely making shit up back then, and then he just got lucky because he's a broken clock and it ended up being somewhat right.
I've never even engaged on the veracity of the claims.
Right.
I've never even.
Okay.
I just know the claim is
right.
They're dumping their criminals. And look, he's even talked explicitly about how we're dumb because we should be dumping our criminals in their countries.
No, but I'm saying when I've heard him, I could be misremembering, but when I've heard him make the claim that they're emptying their prisons to send to America, I don't remember him making that specific element of the claim in his first run for office. I only remember him making that this run for office.
I've heard him go on a tangent about how, look, if he was the president of one of these third world nations, he'd be dumping his criminals in America. This is a good plan.
That was recently, right?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is I don't remember him making that specific element of the claim in his first run for office.
Right.
So
I don't
could be misremembering.
I don't know how you could. I don't know how you could make that claim into some sort of racist claim.
Well, you could. It depends how if you say, oh, this country, they've had the strategy of dumping all of its criminals, releasing all its criminals from and sending them to the country. That necessarily isn't going to cause racism, but if you cultivate it like everyone coming is a criminal who's being released from some jail in some South or Central American country, obviously that is going to create racist stereotypes.
It is, yeah, but it's going to be a side effect.
Yes. Sodos for $2 says, fun fact from my statistics class way back when someone says 50-50 odds, it means they literally have no clue nor strong feeling. Come on, Sitch, at least give us a 49-51. Be brave, stake a claim in this uncertain world. There you go. No, I'm gonna stick to the enlightened centrist position of 50-50. You can't bully me, Sodoge. Death by Slaw for $2 says, I'm genuinely ambivalent on Trump and plan to vote third party, but my read on him is that he doesn't segment the world into races or sexes, but rather into winners and losers. He loves winners of all stripes and disdains losers.
It's a good observation.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I think that is probably true. I think more personally close to home, he segments the world into people loyal to him and people not loyal to him. So, but you're probably right about the winners and losers mindset.
I'm going to bring up that screenshot I sent you just for you, just because it's fucking hilarious. So I was trying to get what was the bet I was trying to get you to bet?
What?
$500 that he wouldn't go after his political rivals or something like that.
Yes. Well, no,
Is that the
I
bet?
was trying to get you to bet that.
Right, but
yeah.
It's too unclear. Like that's not a real good. I usually only like to bet when I know I'm going to win because it's like
You're not
inevitable.
confident in that one.
Yeah, not at all. So
Right.
I'm watching this video. I read every Donald Trump book, finance book. Here's what I learned. She does a quote from the book that just completely jumped out at me here from Donald Trump. My motto is always get even. When someone screws you, screw them back in spades.
Oh, that's not looking looking good if you if you took that bet.
Do you think that looks bad or good for Donald Trump going after Shifty Shift?
Looks pretty good for going after Shifty Shift.
Yeah.
Did someone send it to you? Or you just randomly found that?
I just was watching the video and it just like jumped out at me.
That's
I assumed it was a
hilarious.
simulation fucking with me.
I was gonna say that's the universe sending you a message. Just randomly, like, oh, here you go.
Sitch, we all know that it's more of a guideline. Okay. It's not a rule for Trump.
Fair.
Look, and Shifty Shift is gonna start kissing ass like it's the Olympics once Trump is in office, obviously. He's going to get himself a brand new pair of knee pads and he's going to go to work.
Right.
You don't believe me? He's a politician.
He's going to, okay. Yes.
Sitch is like, we have to move on. I agree.
All for $10 says Sitch, bad joke, read first. LOL. Sorry. But Sitch, Israel does have a worthless place in the desert. It's called Palestine. Well, thank you, Phil.
True.
I completely denounce such a offensive, tasteless, horrible joke. All right. How dare you? How dare you? Anyways.
All right. This was a great show. Very passionate.
Yep.
I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. And I guess we're talking to Tom Foolery tomorrow about how Donald Trump is a fascist. So there'll be a lot more of this.
And then Vanessa.
Well, no, Vanessa's coming out at the same time, though.
Also Vanessa.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Just have a happy little live stream. It'll be great.
There you go.
Lots of fun.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.